Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the City of Delray Beach's regular commission meeting scheduled for Monday, September 18th, 2023 at 4 p.m. Please call the roll.
Mr. Frankel?
Present.
Mr. Long?
Present.
Mr. Ballston?
Present.
Ms. Burns?
Here.
Mayor Petrolia?
Here. Please stand for the pledge. Okay. Agenda approval, any additions, deletions for the agenda? Entertain a motion.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Ballston?
Yes.
Ms. Burns?
Yes.
Mayor Petrolia?
Yes.
Mr. Frankel?
Yes.
And Miss Lachey,
She always gets to go first.
we would like to invite you up to give us a presentation of our Employee of the Month.
Yes. So, good evening. I'm Lachey King, Human Resources Journalist. Super excited to be here today because we are presenting this award to someone that is so truly special. She has been with the city for 27 years as our customer service rep. And if you do not know her, you will recognize her today, Miss Olivia Salvio. Come on up. And Miss Andrea Guerrero will let you know what Miss Olivia did to receive this award.
We nominated Olivia Salvo for Employee of the Month to show our appreciation for her dedication and consistent service to the City of Delray Beach and to the utility billing team. Olivia started working for the city in August of 1996. So as of last month, that's 26 years. During this time, she has served as customer service representative with her main task as our cashier. She is literally the face of the UTB division. Olivia has consistently performed her job with professionalism, excellence, and dedication for more than 2 decades. She is adaptable to change and participates in department discussions related to increasing our efficiencies. She's a team player who always is willing to assist her coworkers. Her vast knowledge of her position has assisted her in training many fellow cashiers that she's worked besides over her course of her career. Livy's courteousness, empathy, and patience resonates with our customers, both internal and external, and within our department. Many residents will even ask for her by name. She has also volunteered to work for many city events, such as the School Bash and Christmas and park events. We value the work that you do and everything you do to contribute to the City of Delray Beach and the UTB division. And thank you to our Finance Director, Hugh Dunkley, for also endorsing Livy's nomination for Employee of the Month. Thank you.
Very nice.
So, Olivia, because you're so amazing, we have something special for you. This beautiful plaque. And a certificate for 8 hours off with pay. Thank you. Madam Mayor.
I'm sorry?
I think she wanted to get a picture. She asked if you wanted to.
Congratulations. Well deserved.
This is my son.
Aww.
Thank you, thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, so at our next presentation will be Greenhouse Gas Reduction and Climate Action Plan by Mr. Ken Edwards.
There we go. Hello, Mayor and Commission. I'm Ken Edwards, Sustainability Officer for the City of Delray Beach. Happy to be here today to present on the Greenhouse Gas Reduction and Climate Action Plan. At first, I think it's important to continue to emphasize climate change is real. It was 1856 when carbon dioxide was first identified as a greenhouse gas, warming the atmosphere. That is 1856. And the effects that we're experiencing now, like this past summer, extreme heat, ocean temperatures that never been measured before, major category hurricanes that got to that category very quickly, and also even extreme rainfall that shut down the Fort Lauderdale airport for a couple of days. These are effects of climate change, and it is tied to greenhouse gases. So this slide is really indicating what we need to do in the future. So the black line is measured emissions over a recent period of time. The red line is if we don't take steps to reduce greenhouse gases tremendously, then that's what we will see in a temperature increase of 3 degrees Celsius. If you look at the x-axis at 2030, if we reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by 50%, then we'll be on track to keep warming to 1.5 to 2 degrees. If you go to 2050 at net zero, then again, we'll be in that 1.5 to 2 degrees Celsius, and that is a manageable situation for climate change. So that's what we need to do. And you may recall back in May, I was here to present the greenhouse gas inventory. As we move forward on reducing emissions, we need to know where those sources are. So this was a slide that summarized the sources of greenhouse gases. We have more than 50% that come from transportation, and then 44% that come from our buildings, both commercial and residential. So good news here is we have sources identified. We know that we need to focus on our buildings and our transportation. And again, the goals are a 50% reduction by 2030. That's 7 years away. So significant steps need to be taken on our way to net zero by 2050. And I'm seeing more and more reports now that say that many organizations are not on track to hit the reduction goals that they have set. So what kinds of strategies can we use in order to reduce emissions? So for buildings, one of the main categories, we can be more efficient. We can turn our thermostat settings up. And I would suggest 3 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 1.5 degrees Celsius. That's the amount of change that we've seen in the atmosphere or headed towards that. So it's a way within your building to actually see. I can feel this difference in temperature. If you feel it in your building, then obviously out in the environment it would have an effect also. Other things we can do is more insulation. We can install LED lighting and other kinds of efficiency measures. Appliances are a significant use of electricity. So air conditioning systems and water heaters and other kinds of appliances that are efficient and have an Energy Star rating is an important way. Renewable energy, of course, getting off of fossil fuels and having clean solar here in Florida is a great option for us. And looking at buildings, especially new ones, to be net zero. If you start from the design phase, then that's really the easiest way to make buildings more efficient. And if we're looking in 7 years at cutting our emissions to 50%, then our Green Building Ordinance helps push us in that direction, but we need to set a good example in the city and also look for partners that will have buildings at net zero. And that's just a few of the things that we can do. But moving on, transportation-wise, really an assessment of vehicles. So in large businesses or in governments, and even for personal vehicles, assessing, can I move to an electric vehicle or some other kind of more green vehicle than straight gas or diesel? But that does take some assessment, looking at the use, and is there a vehicle out there available that will meet that purpose? Again, if we're looking at reducing emissions by 50% and we're changing 10% of our fleet a year, then it's really going to take some planning in order to make sure that our emissions are reduced. We can set goals then and use different types of vehicles, whether it's a hybrid, natural gas, low-speed vehicle is a LSV, so road rated golf carts, and of course electric vehicles. To have electric vehicles, you have to have a charger infrastructure, so a plan for installing that is important. We can also have things like reducing the miles driven. Virtual meetings are good for that, but carpools and other kinds of policy initiatives, and then alternatives to a vehicle. It's where our tree planting program helps with the biking and walking, allowing people to get out, and other kinds of policies with shuttles and freebies. We're really going to need to look at all of these areas in order to be able to reduce our emissions. And then a related but a larger topic is a climate action plan. So everything with regard to greenhouse gas reduction would be incorporated into a climate action plan. These 6 categories, when you look at in South Florida, a lot of entities have a climate action plan and address these kinds of topics. Energy really is related to greenhouse gas emission directly that I've talked about, but also water. So managing our stormwater and even our drinking water sources and storm surge. For waste, reducing the amount of waste that we generate, increasing our recycling. For the natural environment, the dune system that we have is the best protection that you can have against a major storm. But also having habitat that's resilient in our parks and around the city makes for a more healthy, resilient area. The built environment, we talked a bit about the building reduction already, but it's not only greenhouse gases, but preparing for strong storms. And then with transportation, again, assessing fleets and reducing emissions in that way. So a climate action plan would be incorporating greenhouse gas reduction, but also many other kinds of preparatory steps, similar to, but not as proactive as the adaptability index that we presented on in past months. So I know that was very quick. Wanted to give you, an overview, and then we'll be coming back to have additional discussion, but welcome direction and comments and questions at this point.
Thank you so much to the commission. Mr. Boylston?
Yeah, with this action plan, are we going to be putting together some of those goals as far as like for our fleet, for example? What year do we want to be completely EV or hybrid or a mixture of both? Are we going to be setting some of those goals?
It could, with the direction and the work of city leadership, that is a component that a lot of governments have done.
So that's what I'll be looking for, is specific goals with deadlines, and then working our way back from there. Okay, what do we have to do each year? I think it's been really effective with the 10,000 trees. Seems like a lot, but then when you just nibble at it for each year and be doing 2,000 trees a year, 5 years, and keep on top of it, I think we might hit that in maybe 6 years. But with a pandemic thrown in the middle, I think that's not too bad. So that's what I'll be looking for. I really don't need another document just generally saying what we need to do. We need to set some goals and some benchmarks.
Great. And I think the goals setting is us to you guys. Deputy Vice Mayor, anything? Nope. Thank you. Anything? I had a couple questions. Number one, you said that there was trying to do a net zero building, and there was a 3% thermostat change, or 3 degree thermostat change. What are you exactly saying? Where should we be setting our thermostats in order to be able to achieve these lower goals? Is it just taking it from wherever you are down 3 points? Is that what you're saying, or?
Well, the 3 degree difference is the setting on the thermostat, and I really picked that as a way to draw attention to it's equivalent to the amount of temperature change for the whole planet. So it's more of an understanding that a temperature change we can feel. Mm-hmm. But it also does reduce greenhouse gas emissions.
So you're saying from the outside temperature to the inside temperature, this should be a 3 degree difference? Is that what you're saying?
No, this is the thermostat setting. So
Okay.
if it's 72 or, I've even heard people that say they have their thermostat set at 68.
Right.
If you move it from 68 to 71,
Right.
then you're going to save electricity,
Gotcha.
you're going to save money, you're going to reduce
So you're saying
greenhouse
everybody
gas.
should just try to take it up 3 degrees?
Try that.
Got it.
You see a difference. You save money. You reduce greenhouse gases. And then really on another factor, as we're designing new buildings, we can make them more efficient
Mm-hmm.
with coatings on the roof, renewable energy, better air handling systems, and all of that kind of thing.
Solar?
Solar, absolutely.
Okay, and then also, I was just going to put it to my colleagues up here, because I think that the Vice Mayor started down that path. This is really on us to ask to move in that direction, and I think that we should, and I think should have for a decade or more. There are lots of things that we can do. And you mentioned one, but I'm thinking also just increasing cart spaces, golf cart spaces in our city, encouraging the use of a golf cart over driving a car. It's not going to be expending using the gas that other cars are, and it'll help with that contribution because it seems like that's the biggest piece of the pie there is the transportation. So if we can do things and lead the way in the city by moving towards hybrid and electric vehicles, hybrids maybe first, and then move into asking our constituency to also be considering those types of things. Creating more of those charging stations is another way of being able to encourage the use of having those vehicles. And then finally, I just wanted to mention, because I know my colleagues are not aware, but the PalmTran, or maybe you are aware, I'm not sure, but PalmTran is moving towards electric buses. They've started, but it's very interesting. Policy in states, when they're getting grant money, requires them to keep what they've purchased for a certain period of time. In the buses, I believe it's 10 years. So there's no way to go to completely electric until they ride out that time frame. So they're putting in new buses, and each of the buses that they are putting in is going to be electric, but the entire fleet to be replaced is going to take a good 10 years to do. And I just say it's great that they're doing this, but again, there's certain constraints within government where you can't just jump into something because you have responsibilities and grants that tie you to what you have already ventured into. Anyway, just wanted to mention that as well. And net zero buildings, what is that?
That would be a building that, by design, generated enough electricity to run itself.
Okay, got it. All right. We need to do that too. We're going to be doing a lot of building coming up here in the future, and I think that as closer as we can get to net zero, I think we're going to be leading the way, and we should be doing that. Very good. That's it. Thank you so much, Kent. We appreciate the presentation.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to comments and inquiries. Mr. Moore.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Briefly, I'd just like to acknowledge and introduce, and this does not involve a presentation from you, Mr. Evans, the new Direct Economic Development Manager for the City of Delray Beach, Mr. Rob Evans. He joined the organization a week ago, and we are actually assigning roles and responsibilities for him to be effective in that particular capacity. There he is, if you can just
Welcome
wave.
aboard. Glad to have you.
So coming into the City of Delray Beach after having served both the Greater Fort Lauderdale Alliance as Director of Development and Workforce Services, as well as Career Source Broward. Educational background out of Hofstra University, as well as the Pontifical Catholic University of Chile. So interesting background. Just to acknowledge you publicly, welcome aboard, and to the Mayor and Commission, here he is.
Thank
So
you.
thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Mayor, I do have one request of the city manager or city attorney. Just because I know we have individuals here tonight that are probably here for 9A, 9B, and 9C, which is a first reading, I think it'd be appropriate just to let them know what we do, what the process is and the policy is for first readings, because it's going to be several hours from now.
Okay, and this is for
This is Barwick,
Road?
The
yeah.
annexation? The
Yes.
annexation?
Yeah.
So actually, typically for first readings, we do not have a presentation. The commission simply just votes it to second reading, and that's where they'll entertain the presentation from the applicant and the city. I think it's 9C, that is quasi judicial. So we will be accepting public comment on those. It's going to be a little bit later in the evening.
Yeah.
But there will be no presentation. The applicant's attorney is here, it's Mr. Schiller, and we have all agreed that we will all waive our presentations today.
Right. And then the second reading, all those presentations will be done. So if anyone wants to make a comment about A or B, they can actually do it during public comment.
A or B is during public comment, and then C would be,
Having to wait until
Right.
that
C,
point.
you'd have to wait till a few hours from
Right.
now.
But it's-
Public comment is in the next 30 to 60 seconds. So I just wanted anybody to know that's here to speak about any of those items.
And if the city attorney can kind of give us a little box of what they're allowed to speak to on A and B, if anybody wants to step forward, because we're going to be moving into public comments here in a few minutes, and you're welcome to step up and say what you'd like to say, but
So A and B is the annexation, bringing it into the city, the parcel, and the second item is the future land use map amendment. So the actual rezoning, which is what's going to address like the density issues and those things, that would be later in the meeting.
Okay, great.
very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you bringing that up. All right, so moving on, Mr. Moore?
Thank you. The next presentation is also fairly brief, and this is a formal presentation. We've asked our partners at Hazen and Sawyer to continue to periodically offer updates to the City Commission in terms of progress and direction regarding the water treatment plant. So they are here this evening to offer a brief update in this regard. Director of Utilities Hassan Hajimiri will step forward to offer a brief introduction if necessary. Otherwise, this should be fairly succinct as well. Please.
Good afternoon, Madam
Hello.
Mayor and Commissioners. I have Orlando Castro from Hazen and Sawyer here to give a brief update on our new water treatment plant progress report. So with respect to the time,
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, Commission, Mr. Manager. Orlando Castro with Hazen and Sawyer. I'm with Monica Pazahanik, also with Hazen and Sawyer. Give you an update on the water treatment plant. Last time we were here was in February, so we're here to provide updates on a quarterly basis on the project. Next slide. As a reminder, Hazen and Sawyer is serving as the owner's representative for this project. Do I control the slides or? Oh, there it is. I apologize. Okay. So we were here in February. At that time, we were scoped to validate. The city had done a number of planning documents for this new water treatment plant, and we validated what the project scope would be and the recommended project delivery, which was progressive design build. We later in May, the city held an industry forum to the engineering and construction market to introduce the project. It was very well attended with over 40 people in attendance. Really the leaders of the water and sewer market in South Florida were in attendance, very good attended. That project was later advertised in June, and on August 23rd, we had the proposal submission deadline. We had 5 very qualified design-build teams submitted for this project. Where we are currently is on Wednesday, the city will, they've assembled a evaluation committee, and they will go through this SOQs, submittals of qualifications, and we'll shortlist the top, at least the top 3 teams to invite them for interviews. We're anticipating the interviews to be sometime next month. And shortly thereafter, we will come back to the commission with the highly ranked team and request for approval to negotiate what's called the Phase 1 services, which is the design and development onto a guaranteed maximum price. We hope to bring that back, that proposal for design and development of the guaranteed maximum price, GMP, sometime in January. So with that, we're here to answer any questions you might have, but that's our progress update for today.
Very good. Any questions?
Great.
No?
I don't think you have any, but thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Thank
Appreciate the update.
Thank you.
Mr. Moore?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. One remaining item, and that is a follow-up from your experiences during the September 5th City Commission meeting, in which employees made a request regarding COLA adjustments based on austerity measures that were made back in the 2009 timeframe and following few years. And it's really important to clarify, ladies and gentlemen, that that was in fact the case, austerity measures. In other words, the execution of cost-saving strategies that ended up being fairly less impactful during a state of economic decline being experienced in Delray Beach as well as a number of other cities across the country, much of which is a function of the Great Recession having begun during that particular year and time frame. So critically important to point that out so that everybody's clear in understanding the genesis of that. In other words, there was no maliciousness on part of the city of Delray Beach or any of that. And thankfully, the city of Delray Beach, unlike many other municipalities, offered leadership and guidance to this effect, other than more drastic approaches such as layoffs, furloughs, and elimination of positions and services. Likewise, the freeze on wage increases or salary increases at the time proved to be a less impactful or less adverse outcome in this regard. Nevertheless, both the Office of the City Manager and that of the Office of the City Attorney collaborated with the Department of Finance, the Department of Human Resources to evaluate what arrangements would be necessary to engage considerations with respect to the question or interest having been expressed September 5th relative to COLA adjustments and other contributions involving the retirement program here in the city of Delray Beach. And I think it's appropriate at this time, if you don't mind, Ms. Jellin, to talk a little bit about what we've investigated legally in terms of what our capabilities are and are not. Ms. Jellin, if you would, please.
Sure. So we did meet with our outside counsel, Jim Lynn, who provided a little bit of, We met with our outside counsel, Jim Lynn, who provided a little bit of clarity about COLAs. There's a Florida statute, 215.425, which essentially does not allow extra compensation to be given to municipal government employees for past performance. And so you always have to be mindful of when you're doing a retirement COLA that you don't fall into that prohibition. Just for purposes of, completeness, a COLA is the most expensive benefit that a city could give to an employee because, as we talked about earlier, it compounds, right? So if you give a COLA every year it's going to be compounding, and so the cost becomes exponentially higher every year. Some municipalities who do entertain a COLA, they may do it for a certain number of years and then they stop it. They might do it every other year, or they might fix the actual percentage of the COLA. They might do 1%, 3%, 5%. So there is a lot of variables for the commission to consider if this is something that you do want to pursue. The one thing that Mr. Lynn did tell us about, because we do have to be mindful of the prohibition on extra compensation for past performance, is something that the city of Boca Raton does. And in their pension ordinance, they have, it's called a biennial review. And essentially each odd calendar year, the commission undertakes a review and they look at the cost of a COLA for their retirees. And they can adopt it or they cannot adopt it, and they can make it for certain employees and other employees. So I do have that language if anybody's interested in. That language would at least allow you the ability to consider a COLA for your retirees. You're obviously not committed to it, but it does require you to have a review every number of years if it's something that the commission wishes to to consider for its past employees. That's really the only way that you could do it for retirees. Other than that, if you did want to adopt a COLA, it would be more for the current employees to benefit from it.
So lastly,
Sorry, I was just going to say one more thing. By way of process, if any time that you want to adjust a pension benefit, we have to secure what's called an actuarial impact statement. An actuary would look at the range of benefits that the commission considers, a time span, the number of employees that would benefit from it. They would bring that back to you. Then the pension ordinance would actually go to the General Employees Pension Committee. They would make a recommendation to the City Commission, and then it would come before you. Why am I telling you this? Because it's kind of a lengthy process. An actual impact statement, I'm sure Commissioner Frankel can tell you, takes a few weeks to months to actually complete because it's very thorough. And so if that is something that the commission wants to consider, we could obviously obtain that study to give you kind of an understanding of what what the numbers are. If that's not something that you want to do now, but you think maybe future commissions could look at it, we could also adopt this ordinance. This wouldn't require a natural impact study. It's just basically creating a requirement for future commissions to look at this benefit and decide if it's something that is affordable for whatever year it would go into effect. And now I'm done.
So my comments were simply what you just stated regarding the actuarial process. It's pretty involved and lengthy, and therefore we are not at liberty today to come back to the City Commission and define for you what the cost of this consideration would be for the associated process involved. And likewise, to emphasize that this would be a prospective consideration. That's our sole ability, and that is the case for every municipality with a pension program in the state of Florida and elsewhere. So with that, we yield.
To the commission. Any comments? Nope.
I guess I'll chime in. I did speak with Lynn this morning in preparation for today, And I think looking at Boca's process might be the way to go. I mean, I think it's fair. And, you know, this is a group that, you know, really does probably deserve a COLA. And it would be something that I would be interested in learning more about what Boca does and seeing if it's a fit here.
Deputy Vice Mayor?
I agree with Commissioner Frankel on that front.
I would be in support of staff's recommendation.
Okay.
And
And
support
your
that as well.
recommendation is to look at the Boca Raton?
Turning this off. You would be interested in doing the biennial review, so I can bring that ordinance back to you, and then we could make it, you know, every odd year, and so that would be starting, or we could do every even year. And then starting next year, we would at least start the process for you to consider it, and some of you. And then if it's something that is, and we would do it before the budget cycle begins so that you are able to budget for it. And then if it's something that the commission's interested in, then you can adopt it.
Great.
And that process would address what the employees brought to our attention?
So,
Yes, the
yes.
non-union employees.
Yes, it would be for the general employees, yes. Okay, I'll
Very
prepare
good.
it.
I think you have your consensus.
Thank you.
All right. That's it, Mr. Moore?
I yield at this time, ladies and
All
gentlemen.
right,
Thank you.
very good. At this moment in time, the meeting is now open to the public for comment on anything they wish to speak about on any topic or agenda item that is not quasi-judicial and not a public hearing item. Those items will be, you'll have the opportunity of speaking at when we get to those on the agenda. For public comment, please sign in, state your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. I'm gonna play this video because y'all need to hear this. Thank you, Tin Roof. It's 12:18 a.m. Tin Roof. I can hear Tin Roof from in my room. I can hear Tin Roof from in front of my house. I wish the entertainment district keep they noise down there. That bothers me because it's every weekend. But if I turn my music up and the neighbors call the police, I got to turn my stuff off. But I can hear them to 2 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, every weekend. I'm tired of it. Fix it, please. All right. I had a whole bunch of stuff. Okay, I'm gonna repeat what I said last meeting. No public service building should be on the 6, 7, 800 block. Police, fire department, none of that. It's space on Congress, I believe, next to the senior health entertainment facility, whatever it is over there on Congress. It's a playground over there. I don't ever see no kids over there, but it's a playground over there for seniors. Yeah, that's all I got to say.
All right, thank you.
Thank y'all.
Yes, sir.
Hi.
Hi.
Mayor, Commissioners. I'm Bob Cantwell, 1007 East Heritage Club. I came here today just to say again how strongly I am encouraging everyone to take the My Delray Beach app. I will volunteer to come to any organization, any group, and make a presentation, but we want to encourage as many people as possible to start using the My Delray Beach app to file for any type of improvement that needs to be done in your neighborhood or in the city or anything that you see around. It has a lot of information. It's very easy to do. I'll work with anybody here to put it down on your mobile device. So please, please join that. And the other thing I wanted to recommend was for the Delray Beach bed races on October the 7th. And I know the city has been petitioned for a contribution, and I would like to encourage that because I think it's a great historical thing that we've done, and I'd like to encourage you to do it again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello, Madam Mayor, Commissioners. I am Sarah Loudon, and I am speaking on behalf of Westway Towing on a prepared statement by Kevin Pillar. Westway has been running the City of Delray towing service contract for the last 7 years. The last 2 of those, they were operating in good faith with the city without a contract. Over the last 7 years, Westway never had a complaint from the city or any citizen of the city. I would like to go on record calling out a series of events that simply do not add up. In November of 2022, Mr. Pillar and others attended a towing convention in Philadelphia where he spoke with the COO of COFS, Thomas Tedford. Mr. Tedford told Mr. Pillar he was taking the City of Delray's contract and it was, quote, already a done deal. 7 months later, in June of 2023, after an extended evaluation process using the city's point system to award contracting bids, the selection committee ranked Westway first, Priority Towing second, and COFS third. 11 days later, a new ranking was issued, keeping Westway first, but replacing Priority Towing with COFS for second place. 2 months later, the commission meeting agenda was published with a motion to approve Resolution 15423 to award Westway Towing the City of Delray Beach's contract. Westway representatives attended the meeting alongside the chiefs of police and fire and other city officials. In a surprising turn of events, information about a previous owner of Westway Towing, Mr. Craig Goldstein, was brought up. Mr. Goldstein was imprisoned for tax evasion unrelated to Westway Towing. This was curious because years earlier, the city already vetted and resolved any perceived issues around Mr. Goldstein and continued its flawless contractual relationship with Westway. Even more curious was that the commission never asked Westway nor any of the public officials related to this contract to speak or defend themselves with this new information. It is not enough to chronicle what happened with Westway in the city. We must also provide context that may color your opinion about this matter. The Vice Mayor, Ryan Boylston, and Rick Burgess from Dealers Pro Choice are good friends. In fact, Vice Mayor Boylston posted numerous times that Mr. Burgess supported his campaign and even built a car for him. COFS, the now appointed contested winner of the city contract, who was curiously moved up in rank over Priority Towing, to this day does not have a towing license for their location through Consumer Affairs, which is required by the city bid. Mr. Burgess attended the city's inspection of COFS and met with city officials and attended the oral presentations for this bid.
All right, thank you. You're at your 3 minutes. That's all we allow.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Madam Mayor, City Council, my name is Kevin Pillar. I'm the Vice President of Westway Towing. I'm not much of a speaker, so I'm just going to pass out some documents for you, ma'am. The first one is the occupational license of Laura Frank Collision. It is at the same address as COFS Towing, which is not allowed in Palm Beach County. If you go to the pictures, you'll see Dealers Pro Choice, who owns Laura Frank Collision. You will see Rick Burgess meeting your inspection team, your committee, and Mr. Burgess was also at the oral inspections, which would break the code of silence, which your attorney said did not happen. The last page is a tow bill and a receipt. If you bring your vehicle to Dealers Pro Choice Collision, you will be paid by a Laura Frank Collision check.
I didn't hear what you just said. I'm sorry.
If you
The
bring
last
your
one
vehicle to Dealers Pro Choice, you will get paid by a Laura Frank Collision check if you tow a vehicle in there. So Mr. Burgess owns Laura Frank Collision, which is on the same property as COFS Towing, which is not allowed by Palm Beach County, and that's why they do not at this time have a towing license for that facility. And at the time of inspection, they had no licenses at all. No windows, no doors on the facility, no fences, 3 vehicles, and it's all on video. I have a video, and those clips of the pictures are all from the video. I started following this in November. I started following everybody in November. I have multiple pictures, videos, and statements. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, I am Kiki Casal. My address is 3717 Satin Leaf Court, Delray Beach. I am here to talk about the TNVR program for our homeless cat community. These initials stand for trap, neuter, vaccinate, and return or release. Cats without established homes have many names. Some call them stray or alley cats, others call them community or neighborhood cats, and still others call them feral or wild cats. As there are many names for these cats, there are also many ways they end up homeless, living outdoors on their own. Regardless of what you call them, there are approximately 9,000 to 11,000 of these homeless cats living in our city. They shelter under cars, eat off streets, and they have kittens. Lots and lots of kittens. The average cat can have 3 litters of 4 to 6 kittens per year. In just 7 years, a single pair of cats and their offspring can produce tens of thousands of unwanted cats and kittens. Unchecked, the population of stray cats grows exponentially. This is where the TNVR program comes in. Approximately 2 years ago, the Delray Beach community joined the ranks of such major cities as London, Rome, Istanbul, and Jacksonville, Florida by adopting a TNVR program. Jacksonville, Florida was the first city in the U.S. to address the problem of stray cats with a program that neuters and vaccinates the stray cats. The Europeans have been doing this for decades, which means that there are decades of data showing that the program works. The bottom line is that neutering and vaccinating stray cats is a social good. It keeps the cat population under control, and it keeps diseases like rabies, distemper, and others that can be passed to humans in check. Currently, the city allocates $25,000 for this program. This works out to be less than $3 per cat. It's a start, but it's only a start. I'm here to ask you to not only keep this program going, but also increase the funding for it. Successful TNVR programs include registered feeder programs. Miami Beach is a perfect example of how this works. They have a 3-pronged approach: TNVR, adoption, and feeding. There is no point in having a TNVR program if you are going to place the cats back on the street to starve. The city is fortunate that we have non-profits that can adopt out the cats and kittens, and we have volunteer feeders like me who are doing this at their own expense. Our city can have a very successful TNVR program for the city and its residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Good job. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Erica Baroza, 3913 Sherwood Boulevard. I just wanted to follow up with Ms. Casal over here. I was not prepared for this meeting. I just found out about it, but I am on the board of Animal Rescue Force of South Florida, and I also am sort of a team leader of a locally organized group of people who do the TNVR work and who feed these ferals and trap them and stop them from reproducing. Somehow through social media, I have become sort of the Kenny Brown. I don't know if you guys know who he is, but yeah, there's a problem, and people just call me as if I know so much, but I learned from everyone else like them, right? And what I have come to see is there's a lot of parts of town that I don't get in. You know, I'm not disparaging certain parts of town by any means, but there are parts of town that I don't normally drive in. They are of a lower income, it would seem visually, but if you don't go through Delray, and Delray Beach is big, it's west, and you all know this. If you don't drive through there, and you guys don't see this every day, it is disgusting how many of these animals, you don't even want to go there because it's so sad. You have to see it with your own eyes, and I would challenge anyone in this audience who sees this to take pictures. Take pictures, send them in, because they don't know what this looks like. I guarantee you, they don't know what it looks like. It is like Puerto Rico. It is like going to Bimini in the Bahamas. If you've been, you don't realize this, but it's gross. It's sad, it's disgusting, it's shameful. I don't know what we can do, but I would love, maybe Mr. Long, I think we helped you with some of your cats.
You did. We worked with ARF.
Right.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. If there's a contact here who I can connect with after the meeting, just to brainstorm on some ideas. I mean, it should not represent our city. We can do so much better. We are so capable, and this is just terrible. It's awful, and that's all I want to say.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commission. 2 seconds to recognize what a great job Ms. Casal has done in
Yes,
her
absolutely.
presentation.
Good
Very
job.
thorough. My name is Ben Protano. I'm an attorney, and I represent Priority Towing. Just wanted to bring the attention to the mayor and the commission, and I'm sure you're already aware of the situation that's ongoing with regard to RFQ 2023-007, not 207, but 007. To let you know, if you're not aware, that Priority Towing also had submitted their RFQ. So Priority Towing got shifted around, as you heard earlier in the presentations, and we believe that there were some issues that went along with that we don't approve of and we think was outside of the scope of the RFQ and the normal process. So we did file a protest. We did file an appeal to the city manager, and somehow within a matter of working hours versus days, weeks, or months, that appeal was determined to be denied. And at this point, we did ask for a stay while our appeal was pending. That's the appeal to the city manager. And it was denied so quickly, as was our stay. We are exploring the possibility of, and 99.9% sure will be, appealing to the circuit court. We're here to ask today that agenda item 7E, I believe that's the approval of resolution 188-23 to award agreement with COFS of Palm Beach for vehicle towing and storage services. We're here to ask that that matter be stayed and removed from the agenda pending the city administrative to circuit court appeal process. If anyone on the commission wanted to address that, I'd be more than happy to listen. Other than that, that's my presentation.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.
Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Ann Stacey Wright, 225 Southwest 7th Avenue. At last commissioner meeting, I did speak on the stray cats. I am not against any cats. I'm not for. I spoke on it because we are having a big problem in our community where they are setting out cat food, which I have some pictures here, where they're setting it out. Not only are we dealing with cats, but we're dealing with raccoons, possums, and all. It brings about all types of animals. My concern is, again, I am highly allergic to cats. I have several neighbors that are allergic to them. We have problems with the stray cats being sitting on top of our cars, that are in our yards, and they kind of take over our yards and stuff. So we're not against cats. What we're asking is that you have another place or area that you can feed these cats. I will be sending additional pictures to each and every one of you to verify what I am talking about today. Again, I have no problem with cat, but I do have a problem when it comes to my health, and I think I am more important. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Jackie Bronke, and I'm a retired teacher from Palm Beach County. I'm here because I live in Sable Lakes, and I'd like to speak regarding the 133rd Road Southland parcel, and not to anything in particular, other than we were shocked when the City Commission, except for Mayor Petrolia, voted at the last meeting to readdress that which the Planning and Zoning Committee refused last year, and that is allowing development in areas where there is not a proper road. The only ingress, or the only way in and out, better said, the only way in and out of this developed land is what the Planning and Zoning Committee calls an alleyway or lane. The maximum space for cars, assuming there would be 2 lanes, cars going in and out, at the end where it meets Barwick Road is 18 feet. And regulations require 50. The developer reapplying, and we're used to developers appearing looking for exemptions to zoning to maximize their investments. We're used to that, but they haven't changed anything in the plan. There is not space for a road, hence building houses on this first plot, 5 to 16, whatever, and then there's another plot where up to 35 houses can be built. How are they going to get in and out? We're talking about a sidewalk for Banyan Creek Elementary School, 2 blocks away where the kids would go to school. It doesn't make sense. And so I would ask that you revisit your vote before you do anything else. There's just not a road, and that should nix everything. A neighbor offered to sell his house to widen the road, and the developer refused, saying he was sure he'd get the exemptions to the rules. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am. Hi.
Doreen Zickock, 226 Northeast First Avenue. And Ms. Casale, you're awesome. So there's a lot of snickering over here, snickers over here because, oh, it's just cats. Well, you know what? I'm really far removed from a lot of these meetings, so today's my first one in years. As Delray is striving to be ahead of the curve with the 2015 climate agenda, I think y'all need to think about addressing the living beings that have a problem right now. Be more compassionate. That's what this world needs right now, is more compassion. So last year on my block, there was about 5 cats that were just abandoned. Adults, starving, not knowing what to do. You know, there's a whole lot of education for that, big undertaking. But in the meantime, we can address the overpopulation by funding a trap, neuter, return program, which Ms. Casale addressed. And that will stop the endless births, which ultimately lead to great suffering, as the survival rate of outside kittens is extremely low. So again, it's back to that compassion that our society is lacking so badly. Those who do survive often starve, as there is nothing natural for them to eat. They rely so much on humans. Even if it's just the scraps, they're still relying on humans. There's a small army of women. I'm so proud of them for them being so compassionate. We work day and night for these animals. So that's why I'm so appalled by the snickering. I really am. Shameful. Anyway, I want to thank all the ladies and men who are here that care about these animals. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, come on up. Don't be shy.
Julie Casal, 3717 Satin Leaf Court, Delray. I wasn't actually going to speak because I think Kiki did an amazing job.
Yes, she did.
But I'll just, if I can give some information about the program in the event that you end up discussing it. The unfortunate thing is there's a lot of regulations. You can't feed on public property. That's a rule. So you have to go out and cultivate people willing to permit you to feed on private, which is difficult to do. My daughter has done that, and she feeds 5 colonies in Chatelaine every single day. Christmas, Thanksgiving, every day. They never miss a meal, and she does it with her allowance money. Good for you, baby. But when they take the cats off, if a cat is trapped, and the kittens can be adopted out, but oftentimes the senior cats can't, so they have to go back, and they actually have to go back in the same location where they were picked up. And if some people say, well, just remove them all and, euthanize, which sounds somewhat humane considering the conditions they live in, actually. But the problem is you'll just have another colony move in and take its place. Neighborhood Services is doing an amazing job. When they first started this program, we allocated $25,000, $10,000 used in the first year, $13,000 in the second year, and you've allocated $25,000 this year, and I say thank you so much. But we have so many volunteers who are really eager to assist, and I'm willing to volunteer. We could probably organize a little better and do a little better, but I just want to say thank you for allocating that money. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing no one, public comment is closed. Moving on to the consent agenda. Entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Boylston?
Yes.
Ms. Burns?
Yes.
Mayor Petrolia?
Yes.
Mr. Frankel?
Yes.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
All right, we're on the regular agenda. Item 7A, City of Delray Beach and Service Employees International Union. Mr. DeAndrea. Just give him a couple seconds to clear out.
Yeah.
Thank you all for coming. Okay, I think we're good.
Good?
Yep.
We're missing a few people. We gotta wait for them to get back?
I guess. Give them a minute.
Mayor, since
Yes.
we have a minute, at 5:01, we'd
Yes.
like to do the budget hearings.
Yes.
And so we're
I'm
just
gonna be quick.
All right.
So we're
It
taking
depends on
our
how
break
quick
here.
these guys are
Yeah,
going to
it's
be,
not you,
actually,
it's
right
them.
here. Depends on how quick they're going to be.
True.
So I'm only saying that because we're
Yep.
going to move up 8A up. So
Yep.
the people who are after that are going to be a little bit.
Yep. So we have a budget, our final budget hearing tonight at, it's 8A, and we need to move that to the time frame of 5:01. So we're going to stop what we're doing and do the budget hearing at that moment. And then we'll go back to the regular agenda.
And it's going to be 8A, B, and C.
Yeah, I'm sorry, 8A through C.
You didn't miss anything.
Is,
I went to the lunchroom.
okay. All right, I would say go ahead and start since you're,
Go ahead.
yeah.
All right, Dwayne DeAndre, Human Resources Department, for the record. As you know, Mayor Commissioners, you directed us to meet with the Service Employees International Union to discuss the wages and bring them up to at least a minimum starting salary of $5 per hour. We met with them.
$15.
$15, I'm sorry, $15 per hour. We
I had to correct you on that one.
I'm glad you corrected me. So we met with them 2 times per Florida statute, and we were able to meet that directive. The new minimum starting salary for the Service Employees International Union positions will be $15.32 per hour, and in addition to that, we addressed the compression that was caused by that increase, and addressed it by a 4% raise, a 4% increase in salaries that did not meet the maximum for their pay grade. They're here with me tonight, and I can take any questions you may have or anything like that.
So it was specific to just the salaries that were below the 15, is that
Yeah,
correct?
that's what we addressed, and then what we did was we created some compression by doing that, and we addressed those compression issues as well.
All right, any questions, concerns?
No, I just want to say that I appreciate everyone that worked on that. I know there were some concerns in regards to on a off contract year going in and making this adjustment, but it sounds like everybody was on the same page. I think it's really important for Delray Beach to be able to say we no longer have any full-time hourly wages below $15 an hour. Still got a lot of work to do.
Yep.
But I think that was a big step forward, and for us as a commission to realize that it needed to be done now, not next time we go to the table to negotiate. It needed to be addressed right now, and that was only about a month or so ago. So you guys worked swiftly. So thank you for that, and I look forward to going out and filling some of those empty positions so that everybody is up to full staff.
Absolutely.
And I would just have to say that I don't disagree with anything that my colleague just mentioned, but I do have a problem in going outside of the time frame of negotiations. That's why we have unions negotiating contracts at certain times, and I think it does open up a Pandora's box, so I cannot support this at the time. I would have supported even a higher raise at next year's time frame than to do this midstream, and that's just where I stand because of the fact that I think it does kind of open up something that could actually bleed into other negotiations, and we will not have as much standing, and that's my feeling about it. So anyone else? I know we're going to have to move on real quickly here because we got to get to this next.
Yep. So I was going to let the
Sure.
SEIU leadership say a few words,
Absolutely.
and then go
Come
from
on
there.
up and be Be brief so that we can move on.
No question, 1
Yeah.
minute.
Not giving you much time.
Thank you. We've had an excellent working relationship with your leadership team, Mr. Moore, Mr. DeAndre. We made a commitment to a relationship that would wind up being a win-win, and I think we have made great strides. We look forward to improving and building on the relationship that we've created over the last 24 months.
Very good. Thank you so much, and thanks for the brevity.
Lynn, do I need to get a vote on this for the MOU?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yep. Entertain a motion.
Motion to approve 7A.
Second. Nope.
Go ahead.
All right, call the roll, please.
Ms. Burns?
Yes.
Mayor Petrolia?
Unfortunately, no.
Mr. Frankel?
Yes.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Ballston?
Yes.
Very good. Congratulations. All right, moving on to our budget hearing, which is scheduled for 5:01 today. This is 8A, B, and C.
So Mayor, we'll take them each separately?
I'm sorry?
We'll take them each separately?
Yes, of course.
So Resolution 143-23, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Delray Beach, Florida, certifying to the property appraiser and tax collector of Palm Beach County the final rates of millage to be levied by the City of Delray Beach for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2023, establishing the City of Delray Beach's final general fund operating millage at 6.3611, which contributes to a final aggregate millage rate for the City of Delray Beach that is 7.99% higher than the aggregate rollback millage rate of 5.9921, establishing the City of Delray Beach's final debt service millage rate at 0.1371, providing for an effective date and for other purposes. The intent of the City Commission is to adopt an operating millage rate of 6.3611, which is necessary to fund salaries, operating expenses, capital expenses in the general fund, and to adopt a debt service millage of 0.1371 for a total millage rate for fiscal year 2023-2024 of 6.4982.
Okay.
Yes. Good evening, Mayor. Before I begin, okay, the
you
PowerPoint
finished?
is up.
Hugh, I'm sorry, can we have a minute?
Yes, absolutely. It's her yeah.
Principal's office.
Yep, that's all correct.
Sorry. Are you okay? Yes. All right, very good. Thank you. Mr. Dunkley?
Yes, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the City Commission. So the city is, we've presented our tentative budget to you in the meeting of September 5th. And basically, what that budget enabled us to do was to advertise in a newspaper of general circulation to the general public that we have had approved a tentative budget. Tonight's meeting will represent the final public hearing, as you stated, for our upcoming year's budget. But before I delve into the budget, I would like to just to go over the charter requirements. So the charter requires that the city manager present to you before the first regular meeting in August, a recommended budget, or his proposed budget. Part of that budget recommendation should have explanations as to why increases and decreases occur, and then it must be adopted in accordance with state statute. Last year we started an initiative that kind of changed the look of the budget document, and that document, the one that was presented last year, was reviewed by the Palm Beach County Office of Inspector General, as well as the city's internal auditor, and found to be compliant with the city charter. So overall, the city charter requires that we present a budget to you for your approval. In addition to being a best practice, that is pretty much the impetus of why we're before you here tonight. So the proposed millage that was just explained by the city attorney, the operating millage is 6.3611, and the debt millage is 0.1371, which gives us a total combined millage of 6.4982. Over the years, the millage rate has decreased somewhat. We have tried to the extent possible to give the taxpayers the greatest amount of tax relief. In terms of total taxes paid, just by this graph, the city accounts for approximately a third of what the taxpayers pay. They pay other taxing authorities as well, such as the school district, the counties. More often than not, the city serves as the cornerstone for complaints and so forth, because most citizens or residents identify with the city within which they live. So just want to point that fact out, that a third of the total taxes paid are from the city. The other 2/3 are from other taxing authorities. So what does the fiscal year budget look like? In the previous meetings, we have presented to you not only the city operating budget, but we've also presented the capital projects budget by way of the capital improvement plan. And we've also had our downtown development authority, which is legally, by definition, is a dependent taxing district. They have also presented their budget. Coupled together, the total budget amounts to $418 million, $552,750. That bottom figure there is what was advertised in the Sun Sentinel on the 15th of September. If you look at the total citywide operating budget, the overall increase is roughly 12%. If you look at the first row, however, which represents our whenever people think of a city's budget, they think of the general fund, which provides services such as fire, police protection, parks and recreation. That amounts for the lion's share of the city's budget. The increase here was 9.3%. The revenues to support those expenditures are split up into various categories, the bulk of which is in taxes, ad valorem taxes, things of that sort. We have the electric utility taxes, and so the total taxes account for 61% of the total city revenue sources. If you look at the expenditures on the other hand, the increase likewise is 9.3%, the bulk of which is in our two largest department, which is fire and police. Some of the increases, as I had indicated earlier, that pertain to our items of expenditures were for salaries, wages, increased pension costs, vehicle rental charges, contribution to the community redevelopment district, automotive, and other items of capital expenditures. And so the next step for our budget is actually, as I mentioned, this is our last formal budget hearing, but we will be having a community forum on September 27th. Thereafter, on October 1st, is the beginning of the city's fiscal year. And I'm available for any questions that you might have.
Very good. Thank you very much to the commission.
This is a public hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. Excuse me. Let me open it up to anybody in the audience that would like to speak to resolution number 143-23. This would be the opportunity for you to step forward and say what you want to say. Seeing no one, public comment is closed to the commission. Anything? No? Okay. Entertain a motion.
Motion to approve resolution number 143-23.
Second.
All right, call the roll, please.
Mayor Petrolia?
Yes.
Mr. Frankel?
Yes.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Boylston?
Yes.
Ms. Burns?
Yes.
All right, moving on to resolution number 144-23.
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Delray Beach, Florida, certifying to the property appraiser and tax collector of Palm Beach County the final rate of millage to be levied by the City of Delray Beach within the Downtown Development Authority taxing district for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2023, establishing the Downtown Development Authority taxing district final operating millage at 1.0000, which contributes to a final aggregate millage rate for the City of Delray Beach that is 7.99% higher than the aggregate rollback millage rate of 5.9921, providing for an effective date and further purposes. The intent of the City Commission is to adopt an operating rate millage rate of 1.00, which is necessary to fund the cost of operations and maintenance for the Downtown Development Authority.
Madam Mayor, no additional formal presentation, as Ms. Laura Simon did an excellent job during the September 5th engagement, not to mention Hugh's presentation having just concluded did reference the Downtown Development Authority in that regard. Likewise, we'd like to recommend approval accordingly.
Okay, very good. This is a public hearing, so I'm going to invite anybody who would like to speak to item 8B, which is Resolution 144-23. Step forward now. Seeing no one, public comment is closed to the commission. Any additional comments? None? Entertain a motion.
All set. Motion to approve resolution number 144-23.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Frankel?
Yes.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Boylston?
Yes.
Ms. Burns?
Yes.
Mayor Petrolia?
Yes. All right, moving on to resolution number 145-23.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Delray Beach, Florida, approving a final budget and making appropriations of sums of money for all expenditures of the City of Delray Beach for the fiscal year beginning on October 1, 2023, and ending on September 30, 2024, prescribing the terms, conditions, and provisions with respect to the items of appropriations and their payment, providing for supplemental appropriations and reappropriations, providing for severability of parts hereof if declared invalid, providing an effective date, and for other purposes.
All right, again, we have a public hearing, so if there's anybody that would like to speak to the actual final budget document, now would be the time. Seeing no one, public comment is closed to the commission. Any comments? Probably going to not approve because of there are some changes that I can't support. So I've spoken about those before, but entertain a motion.
Motion to approve resolution number 145-23.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Boylston?
Yes.
Ms. Burns?
Yes.
Mayor Petrolia?
No.
Mr. Frankel?
Yes.
All right, very good. And thank you so much, Mr. Dunkley. We were at 7B, yep. Which is a quasi-judicial hearing. We're going to start that, and I'm going to read into the record quasi-judicial rules. There's 2 or 3 on the commission. 9C and 9D are also quasi-judicial, so if anybody's going to speak to 7B, 9C, or 9D, you'd want to be sworn in when you have that moment. This hearing shall be conducted in accordance with quasi-judicial rules. The applicant and the city shall be allowed 15 minutes each to present their case. The public shall be allowed to speak for 3 minutes each, or a maximum of 6 minutes if a person represents an organization or a group of people who are present but agree not to speak. The city commission, staff, and the applicant may be allowed to cross-examine a witness. The city and the applicant will be allowed to offer rebuttal testimony. The decision to approve or deny an application or appeal may not be legally made upon personal views as to whether a project is a good project or not, nor may a decision be based on the numbers of citizens who support or oppose a particular project. The law requires that all decisions must be made on the basis of whether the project meets the requirements of law, the comprehensive plan, and the land development regulations. At this point, if there's anybody here that's going to be speaking on 7B, 9C, or 9D, please stand and be sworn in.
Raise your right hands, please. By the authority vested in me as a notary of the state of Florida, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
All right, very good. So on 7B, we're going to ask for any ex parte communication by the commission. I'll start on this end with the Deputy Vice Mayor. This was in response to
Downtown Delray Villas on Southeast First
Downtown
Avenue.
Delray Villas. Is there an address?
It's just Southeast First Avenue.
Okay.
None from me.
Okay.
None.
None.
And is Mr.
Yes.
Blandowney, this is your project?
Yes.
Okay, we spoke. That's it. Yep.
Good
Yes, sir,
afternoon.
you're
Good
up.
afternoon, ladies
Oh,
and gentlemen.
I'm sorry. Let me have the
Yeah.
staff enter the file into the record, and then you'll have your.
Good evening, Anthea Janiotis, Development Services Director. This request is related to a series of files, individual lots. So I'm going to read applications number 2023-132, 2023-133, 2023-134, 2023-135, and 2023-136 into the record. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, you're up.
Thank you. I just want to check on the time that we'll have.
15 minutes,
Okay,
I think,
thank you.
is it? Yeah.
Thank you. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, Commission. We are here today on a very specific matter, but this is the first look at a very exciting project.
And give us your name.
My name is Christopher Bernardo on behalf of the applicant. I'm the counsel for the applicant, and we have Jeff Costello here, which will be giving part of the presentation.
Thank you.
So as you can see the photograph, this is a very exciting new project that is in the works for downtown Delray. We're not here on the whole project. We're here on what is a very critical element for that project, and I will bring your attention to the specific LDR section that you're considering tonight, and that is 531, the dedication of a right-of-way. So what you're here tonight on is the provision in that section that allows this commission the discretion to reduce the width of that right-of-way. And there are two matters that you must find, and that's what we're going to present to you tonight. We have part of our team here to present that as well. But those two matters that you're going to consider tonight for the reduction of that required right-of-way, the code requires a 50-foot right-of-way along Southeast First Avenue, which, as you see in the photograph, and we'll present the details. The two matters that you can consider to reduce that right-of-way are as follows. Number one is for us to show that the right-of-way reduction, right-of-way dedication would cause a hardship to the project. We're going to show you extensively how this project will be materially affected by the dedication of that right-of-way of 5 feet into the project land. The critical elements of that project will be shown to be affected materially, including the street facade, the design criteria of the front, and as our team will show you shortly. More importantly is the second factor, which you're going to hear tonight, and that's what gives this board, the commission, the discretion to make that backup, and that is that we're going to present alternative provisions onto that right-of-way dedication. In other words, you have the power to allow that reduction of that right-of-way where we are presenting alternative methods for you to meet the same needs of the city for that right-of-way. Here you're going to hear very specifically that what we are presenting by the project, there's absolutely no reduction of the needs of the city by the reduction of the right-of-way. In other words, we are going to be providing an easement for the sidewalk, for the utilities, and for everything else that's presently in that right-of-way and in the area at issue, which is the 5 feet. And those two provisions allow you, and that's the purpose of the code, to allow you to back up that provision. Lastly, what we're going to show you too is that the grant of easement will provide something that the city has repeatedly done in the surrounding areas. The city has repeatedly allowed this exact easement where we're giving no negative to the city. And you're also going to show that 50 feet, as a matter of course, 50 feet on a road right-of-way, it's just not the norm for any part of that city. And on that behalf, I'm going to pass it over to Mr. Costello, who will give you those specifics, and I'll return for questions and answers.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Jeff Costello, JC Planning Solutions, Delray Beach, Florida. Just to go through a brief presentation, one of the items that Chris was discussing was this provision of the code that's in your backup regarding the alternative methods as to what could be provided within a 50-foot right-of-way. We want to provide within the easement. The property is located at the northwest corner of Southeast First Avenue and Southeast 2nd Street in the Old School Square Historic Arts District. This is one portion of the Old School Square District. It really hasn't experienced any investment in the past. To the north, we have CNET, and to the west. What this shows you is the surrounding zoning. To the east is zone Central Business District, and you will go into the developments within that area. To the west side of First Avenue is zoned OSHAD, but it's subject to the Central Business District overlay, the development standards of that district. Ours is zoned OSHAD, but we understand the development pressures within this area. We wanted to proceed based on the Old School Square Historic Arts District zoning and not looking at any changes to the existing zoning. With regard to the Southeast First Avenue right-of-way, north of First Street, that varies between 40 feet and 45 feet. You have existing developments and some historic properties further north to the south of the alley. You do not have that. Obviously, those developments that are relatively new have dedicated right-of-way, but we feel that we could provide the same that would be provided with a dedication through the easement. This here is in the block that we're talking about, where on the east side there was a 5-foot dedication. There is a 45-foot right-of-way. To the north end of the block, the city did receive the right-of-way dedications on each side, which is shown as 50 feet on the aerial. The current situation is there is an existing public side on the property, but it's not within an easement. And so our proposal is to basically provide it the same way, on private property, but within the easement, within a 5-foot sidewalk and general utility easement. This has occurred. There's many examples throughout the city where it has been approved, both in the historic district, the downtown area, and within neighborhoods. This is another example of one more recently that has been approved on Southeast 2nd Avenue, just a block away. So what we have here is we've been through a first round of comments with staff, and based on those comments, very great comments in the fact that we have duplexes situated front to back. So the front face First Avenue, and then the rear unit faces the alley. Taking that into consideration, the buildings were shifted to the east 5 feet. We're dedicating 2.5 feet along the alley, plus a 5-foot sidewalk and general utility easement on the west side. We're proposing to do the same on the east side. This is just an example. I just want to go through this briefly because I know this has come up in the past with regard to the alley and frontage off the alley to a unit. So on the south end, there is going to be a total of 20 feet of right-of-way. There's an architect's office under construction to the west side of the alley. As you move north, there's existing situation where we're going to dedicate the 2.5 feet. We'll have 17.5 feet of alley right-of-way, and to the west is a multifamily structure as well as a duplex. And then also a little further north, we have more single-family plus a commercial in that area. As you can tell, to the west is more of a single-family character and transitioning to more of your higher density just to the east of my client's property. And to address some of these concerns, we are providing the 2.5-foot dedication on the alley, as I stated, and the 5-foot sidewalk easement, sidewalk and general utility easement, as well as guest parking to. There we go. Where's that? There it goes. Guest parking to the rear, and then each unit will have 2 car garages, and then to the east side on First Avenue, the 5-foot sidewalk and general utility easement. The plan does provide for many terraces, open space, again on the second levels as well. Trying to maintain the character and provide that transition from the Swinton Avenue to the higher density CBD. We do have the ability to add a 3rd floor, but our intent is to keep it as 2 stories, and what we feel is more consistent with the residential character. And then just along First Avenue, this has gone through a lot of transition, and there's a lot of really development impacts. To the north, there is a project in a review that, they dedicated 5 feet of right-of-way. They're subject to CBD, which allows the arcade, the part of the building, over to public right-of-way. And this is another angle. And then on the east side, those properties are developed. They dedicated 5-foot right-of-way, less stringent zoning requirements and setback requirements. We felt to maintain that character that we want to maintain with the shifting of the buildings to the east, provide what would normally be provided within a public right-of-way, within an easement, such as the 5-foot sidewalk and general utility easement. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Chris. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
So we went through a lot there. I think we went through a lot in a short time, but the main point here is that you have multiple examples of what we're dealing with today. And I addressed the code section that we're referred to here. Is the purpose of this code section is to address this precise scenario that we have. What we have is a 50-foot right-of-way requirement. And by this prior slide that you looked at here, none of those requirements meet in the coming streets. We have it from a 40 to a 50 feet to a 45 feet. What we have is various examples in the downtown area of the easement being granted. So what the issue is today for this commission to decide is that highlighted section that I put here is what are when the right-of-way does not make sense to grant, what are the alternative methods that the petitioner is providing to the city to meet that same goal of the right-of-way? The right-of-way goal is for an alternative method of pedestrian walkway. The right-of-way goal is to provide the city with a means of sometimes a road, sometimes a sidewalk, sometimes utility easements. It's very clear the city of Delray is not going to pave a 50-foot road on the Southeast First Avenue. The purpose of that right-of-way will be met by the easement that we're providing. The other provision that I addressed was the impact to the projects. Precisely the purpose of this section is to give you, the commission, to consider, wait a second, is this project being negatively impacted such that we can give the petitioner and the city both what they need by giving them another method? That's what the easement is for. We've provided and highlighted a few points that we've made. First, the required sidewalks within the sidewalk and general utility easements in lieu of right-of-way dedications have been applied throughout the city. We gave you a number of examples. They go on. Those were just in the immediate downtown area. It's a method of practice to meet the needs of both the property owner and the city. Sidewalk easements have been obtained by the city to construct sidewalks in lieu of dedications in conjunction with capital improvement projects to ensure continuous pedestrian connectivity. Improvements typically provided within 50-foot ultimate right-of-way section will be provided via dedication of the sidewalk easement. And sidewalk and general utility easements dedicated for perpetual public use is what we have here. The end result is the character, the goals of the city, and the goals of the public will be met by what we're providing here without meeting the hardship. Again, those are the two principles that you're here to decide under the relevant code section. I thank you for the time. If there's questions or any other information we can provide to you, happy we have our team here.
Thank you so much. We'll move to the staff report.
Okay, so the applicant kind of opened the door to discuss the entire project. So I'm going to do my best to focus on the right-of-way issue, but also to explain kind of what's going on with the entire project. I think that Mr. Costello had much better slides than I do to explain the zoning for the record, so well done. All right, so what this is, the impetus behind this is obviously a series of certificates of appropriateness. What's great about that is that it's a series of developments rather than something coming in as a whole block and really changing the face of the city. So they are working under the existing OSHAD zoning. However, all right, and the goal is to construct 5 two-story duplex structures on a series of lots that will be created through a replat that this commission will see at another time. I do think it's important to note that the replat is 2 lots that are smaller than OSHAD requires. They're instead of 80 feet as a minimum, it's a little bit over 64, 65 feet to get 5 duplexes rather than the 4 that would result from the size OSHAD anticipates. But the request before you tonight is the issue of the right-of-way for Southeast First. And there is a sidewalk there that is currently not within the right-of-way. It's on private property and there is no easement. And so the request before you is to accept the dedication of a 5-foot public sidewalk easement, and we would want that easement to include things like streetlights or trees that may come later. But those details can be worked out if it's granted. In exchange of not expanding the actual right-of-way, which is supposed to be 50 feet, and leaving it at 45 feet. This is the property today. It's kind of across the street from the Mark that's on the corner, one of the SOFA projects. Just to get an idea, the properties that are being removed as part of this are non-contributing structures. I think that's important for everybody to understand. This is a quick image of the proposed duplex. Because of the width of the lots, the duplexes are oriented one unit facing the street, one unit facing the alley. And through the technical review, what the applicant was explaining is that staff has asked for dedicated, pedestrian routes and things like that to ensure separation of the modes of transportation on that alley, but this has been an issue in the past, so I think it was good to bring that up kind of the very beginning of the project so we all know it's coming. So when a project comes in, ultimately, as part of the technical advisory review, we look to see what is the right-of-way on the street and what is the ultimate right-of-way that is required. Most commonly, you're seeing the 16-foot alleys, which is what downtown was platted. Somebody comes in, they have to give 2 feet because everybody's responsible for their half, right? In this case, Southeast First is a local street, so it has a 50-foot wide ultimate right-of-way. So pursuant again to 531A, when a development is adjacent to an existing or planned street, you have to give your half, and that's usually taken when we're going to see a wholesale redevelopment, which is why the right-of-ways alter over time. So here's the alley, the north-south alley, Northeast 2nd Street, and this is the street that's in question right now, which is Southeast First Avenue, and the request is to provide, in lieu of a 5-foot dedication, that easement. This is blurry, but the Mark and I think it was a SOFA building, and then the little building that had Foot Candy are in the Central Business District. They all gave that 5-foot right-of-way, but keep in mind it's CBD, which means the setback at the time was like 5 to 10 feet. So, it's the invisible line moving doesn't change that much. Sunday Village is on the corner, also in OSHAD, I think, with CBD. No, it's OSHAD, partially with CBD overlay, partially not. They gave the 5-foot right-of-way. Swinton Social actually has this piece. They gave the 5-foot side right-of-way. This piece here is multifamily. It is a contributor. It has not given it, but it hasn't changed yet. So in the findings ultimately that the Development Services Management Group was asked to evaluate were, number one is the reduction supported by the city engineer, who is part of the Development Services Management Group, which is also comprised of myself, the chief building official, the director of public works, the director of utilities, the director of neighborhood and community services, and the fire chief. And then ultimately, would providing full dedication be a hardship in this instance? Is there something unique about the property that makes it, you're asking for too much for that dedication to happen? And then the other alternative is there an alternative provision that accommodates all the features that would otherwise be in a right-of-way? In this case, is the pedestrian easement over an area that has an existing sidewalk relevant? Or, since this is a wholesale redevelopment, is it time to take that right-of-way and move that piece squarely into the public right-of-way for future generations? So, on the Services Management Group ultimately voted to deny their request and to move this to City Commission consideration. The applicant filed an appeal, and then this is a de novo hearing before you. These things, the right-of-way changes over time ultimately because we take it as it comes in. And so I think what's before you today is in this particular instance, not on a different street with a different issue. Is this an adequate provision of the right-of-way? While the images you were shown today are lovely, they have not moved through HPB, and each of those lots requires 7 different pieces of relief. So just to put that in perspective, that those approvals will come before you on your appealable report eventually. The first of which is that the lot plat is tighter than what OSHAD anticipated. All of that is lovely, and we will continue to work that out through the processes. The issue before you is the 5-foot easement versus dedication, which affects setback and building height plane and other things, which is why this had to come before we could settle the other issues related to the ultimate development plan. We have to know the boundary of the property line, right? to move it forward. And so this is really important to decide tonight so that the applicant can move forward with the next steps in the process. Thanks.
All right, so at this point, we are at the public hearing section. So if there's anybody here that would like to speak to resolution number 186-23, that'd be the time to step up and make your statement. Seeing no movement, public hearing is closed, and we will go back to the applicant and ask if there's any cross-examination or rebuttal testimony.
Small rebuttal, thank you. So I want to point out a few things that staff had pointed out. First, we use that we open the door. I think it is very relevant. It's not something to hide that we are having a project here, because in fact, one of the key elements that you are deciding here is a hardship. And I addressed the fact that staff paid attention to the fact that there was a 7-0 on the DSMG. The DSMG's intent, it has the fire chief, chief engineer. These are for the aesthetics, more than the aesthetics, the operability of the property. We're meeting the operability of the property. The fire chief's concerned about entry and access and easement. He's not concerned with the fact that whether this is an easement as a part of a dedication. I mean, that's why this is a de novo hearing. And that's the purpose of this. Purpose of this provision is for us to address the fact that is there an alternative method for you to meet the needs of both the petitioner and the city? We're providing that here. Just to say that the code has a requirement of a 50-foot right-of-way just simply isn't the way the code's designed. This code is here for you to consider the fact that every situation has to be looked at differently. We need to look at this project. And it is relevant that we are building a project on this plot of land, and it is relevant that we're going to lose another 5 feet, as staff has brought up. That's even more the reason why the easement as an option should be considered in our design. We're providing the needs and the meets of the city by providing that easement. There is no reason why that easement shouldn't meet the needs of what the petitioner wants, or no negative about the fact that the petitioner is coming here. That's not something to be negative about, something that we are bringing what is going to be a very exciting project, and it is a gray area between what we're just discussing today as a project as a whole and what we're discussing later on in the petitioner's quest here. So I would invite that we can bring up these. We have Gary here, which is Gary Eliopoulos, which is our designer. The fact that this is a material hardship, there's no hiding that. That's why you're going to give us the easement, because that's what we're asking for, to get that out of the way. The easement, it alleviates the hardship. And I want to say one point here in the address of this section. The section states that it's requiring full dedication would constitute a hardship in this particular instance. Staff paraphrased that section. She gave you a lot of her own words on that, of what that means. It does not mean. It means what it says. It means a hardship in this particular instance. In this particular instance, we meet the needs of the hardship. I invite Gary.
I'd like to rebut, please.
Can I just say one thing before she rebuts, because I know where she's going? So we need to be mindful, and listen, the easement is within your purview, so I'm going to preface what I'm saying with that. However, you can't create the hardship, right? So you can't build a design or create a design that creates the hardship. The hardship is typically, from circumstances beyond your control, like a small lot size that you've seen here before, that it's beyond the applicant. They can't build on it because of the lot size. So let's just be clear and let's be fair. Typically, we don't get to see all the pretty pictures because we know that sometimes that tends to sway board members, not this board, but we don't allow that. So we need to be mindful of what the request is. This is an appeal from a DSMG determination. I don't think Mr. Bernardo should be speaking on behalf of the fire chief and what his concerns are. Chief Tommy's here. He can speak up if you need him to, but there were concerns that from my perspective, an easement would still address, but I think we also need to be fair and mindful that if we're going to read this correctly, you don't get to the alternative until you can prove that there's a hardship. And from my perspective, you can't create the hardship based on your design and wanting to fill up, the lots in the way that they did. So I just want to put that on there.
Thank you.
Do you need to add anything?
I do. I would like to add that I have the text on the slide in front of you, and I think that I kind of take exception to the insinuation that I'm trying to not present the findings before you. I think I've established myself as a fair director over the years, and so I was a little, I think, over the line. The reason that I was bringing up the pictures is because usually our city attorney stops us from showing you the pictures, and so I was trying to manage the expectations of the pictures by explaining that they do all require relief. They may well be worth the relief, and HPP has it within their power, and this board has it within the power to hear the appeal. The other thing is, as a member of DSMG, I think that the reasons that the board did not, and I invite any of my fellow members to correct me if I'm wrong, it was just that it is starting from scratch. The other neighboring properties had provided it, and we didn't see the hardship, and then ultimately the decision was to raise it to a city commission level to make the policy decision whether or not accepting a sidewalk easement was acceptable or not. There is no safety issue related. There are no public utilities within this window. I double checked with Mr. Hajimiri right before the meeting. So it's fully up to you to decide whether or not this type of invisible line, as you've heard me characterize it before, is equal to or better than the typical invisible line of a public right-of-way. That's it.
All right, thank you. All right, to the commission.
Was that option of it being an easement discussed at DSMG?
Yes. It was, and ultimately the concern was that if we were going to establish a policy at an administrative level, that we would be accepting these types of easements instead of public right-of-way, which the comp plan called for. The board, I think, was just not comfortable taking that role, and we've brought these before you in the past, Tanglewood, some of the others, where, I will tell you that this was not, we're denying it because there's a water main under it. It was not that. And it was not being denied because the proposal was an unsafe situation. It was just moving to a policy level decision of determining if the alternate provision was appropriate or not in this case.
What is the difference from a downtown pedestrian standpoint? What would be the difference between this being built with a 5-foot easement or the 5-foot dedication?
So I don't personally see much of a change. I think the issue then becomes, again, I was sort of questioning whether there was a full understanding of right-of-way. No one's going to pave a 50-foot wide road. A right-of-way is not travel lanes for cars. It encompasses all of the things we do in a right-of-way: street lights, street trees, pedestrian easements, all of the underground utilities that most people don't see. And so over time, it's generally a better practice to establish that right-of-way so that the future needs of the city can as well be met. In this exact instance, in the next 10 years, is it only going to have a sidewalk, maybe street lights, maybe street trees, possibly. But there's nothing subsurface there currently that needs to be accommodated for, and there's no plans for that issue either. But a general practice, are we just going to generally start accepting easements instead of the right-of-way, was a little bit of a concern to the board. And in this case, is you give the right-of-way and now we move the setback line. And so that affects everybody who gives right-of-way. And some instances, it's more of a stress than in others, so.
Can I dovetail on your question? Just on that same vein that you're on. Right now, it is not part of the right-of-way.
It is not, and to the applicant's testimony, it has a sidewalk on it that is not in the right-of-way.
Correct. So,
which is not ideal.
What we're doing is no change, kind of.
Well,
I mean, what you're asking for is for the change, but it's something that if there comes a time where in the future that there's a need and the property is then changing, you could ask for that at that point in time?
Well, so to be clear, I'm not asking for anything.
I mean, you understand what I'm saying. We're changing yes. It from the private to the public right away.
Right. So I think it depends on, look, the applicant could certainly testify to, and it might be more appropriate on the extent of the easement they'd be willing to offer. I'm just testifying to you that the offer of a sidewalk easement to staff did not create a safety issue. There's nothing utility-wise. However, moving forward over time, it would be limited to what the easement is rather than be in the city's full control.
Okay, thank you. You want to continue?
No, I'd like to hear what my colleagues have to say.
Okay, anyone else? Ms. Burns, no? Yes, sir.
I had a question.
Frankel?
So I respect, obviously, Anthea, you and 6 others that voted to deny. Is there like any compromise that can be made here? An easement with extra conditions that would protect the city?
Well, I don't think that it wasn't that it's not okay. We just felt that it was not,
Their
it was a
purview.
policy
Okay,
decision
their
that was
purview.
going
So it'd be
beyond an
something within our
administrative
purview.
purview in this case. So, in terms of like our concerns, there's not a water main under there that we're like, you really need to bring this back into the city. There's an existing sidewalk. But the surrounding properties gave it, and in terms of hardship, you're building from scratch. What's exactly your hardship here? So that's kind of where staff came down, but we were raising it to your purpose.
Lynn, can I ask you that same question?
So, the discussion, Anthea is correct. The code says it's a right-of-way dedication. It doesn't really give staff the leeway to negotiate otherwise. So my position was, I didn't feel comfortable with staff offering an easement when the code was very clear that we're seeking a dedication, and that's why they're here before you. There is an acceptable alternative means. We would do an easement agreement with them during the site plan approval process. I think it gets you the same thing at the end. It's just a matter of the dedication is going to force them to move their setbacks, whereas the easement doesn't. And so, to the layperson, me, it doesn't really make a difference. You're not going to see anything. It's not like it's widening the road, but we will get something out of it, and it's going to be an easement. Both parties will sign it, so they can't unilaterally, dissolve the easement. So there are protections that we'll put in place. It's just a matter of staff didn't have the discretion to offer that at the time. This commission does.
Would it be, Gary, would it be something acceptable, what you just heard from the city attorney?
Definitely.
That's what they're talking about doing?
They had offered that, so they proffered that. We just couldn't.
Well,
accept
Gary spoke so eloquently.
Well, then it's over. We're done. We're done.
For the record, that was me.
But he still has that good smile.
But we're doing the pavers, we're doing street lights. We acknowledge, and staff has too, that obviously right now, the current sidewalk is on our property. So visually, there is no change from the public eye, truly. As far as the hardship goes, you start looking at, this is unique in that we are in the southeast corner of Oshad, and we are the only ones that are really abutting CBD across the street, where you've got buildings that are over 50 feet in height. You look at that whole block, and it's a wall of buildings. Now, obviously, that's not something we caused, but I'm just saying it is unique in the sense, behind us are 2- and 1-story structures.
Yeah.
We're doing 2-story. You saw what the CBD, or I should say Oshad overlay did, where they actually have 3 stories right on the same block that we are. We're not doing that. So I do think it's a win-win. I know we're hoping that the commission agrees. Thank you.
Yeah, I would support it. everything Gary and Mr. Ladowney and Mr. Costello brings, it's A+.
Beautiful.
And particularly in that area where we've been looking for development, I think, even though we're not supposed to see the pictures are beautiful. So
I didn't say anything.
Deputy Vice Mayor?
Actually, Commissioner Franco covered my questions, and you answered them really well, so I'm good. Thank you.
Yeah, and I don't have an issue also because it doesn't change the experience of the pedestrian, and it's offering the ability to be able to do something that's going to really change that corner, which has been such an eyesore for as long as I've lived here. So, anyway, and if there's no more questions or concerns, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve resolution number 186-23.
Second, and that covers what you want? Okay, just want to make sure.
Okay, call the roll, please.
Mr. Boylston?
Yes.
Ms. Burns?
Yes.
Mayor Petrolia?
Yes.
Mr. Frankel?
Yes.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Thank
you very much.
Guys, have a great evening. Moving on to 7C, resolution number 177-23.
Hello.
Hi. I am Pei Cadeau, the purchasing manager for item 7C. We are just submitting for the CCNA Act that was established July 2020. The limits were increased to, I'm fighting a cold. So the limits were increased from 300 to 500 for any services or studies for the continuing contracts. And currently our continuing contract limits is set for 200,000, and this item increases it per state statute that was effective way back in 2020 from 300 to 500,000. Also for the for the construction contracts as well, the CCNA by 2 million to 4 million. And so this item essentially just increases the maximum limits on our contracts that were set at from $200,000 and from $2 million. It's increasing it from 300 to 500,000, from 2 million to 4 million. It's just bringing it to the current status of the state statute.
Ought to be consistent and compliant
Yes.
with Florida statutes as of 2020.
So
It just wasn't.
back in
It
20
just wasn't updated.
Back in
Sorry.
2017, we did a solicitation for these types of contracts. We have they are all listed there, maybe 10 or 15 different contracts. All staff is asking us to increase the spending authority pursuant with Florida statute, because these are those ongoing consulting agreements that we have. So that's all that this is. We're not. It's specific to these agreements. They're listed in Exhibit A, and it's just to be consistent with
It's
Florida
just raising
statute.
maximum limits.
Got it. Very good. Any questions, concerns? Entertain a motion.
Motion to approve Resolution 177-23.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Ms. Burns?
Yes.
Mayor Petrolia?
Yes.
Mr. Frankel?
Yes.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Boylston?
Yes.
All right, moving on to 7D, approval of Amendment 1 for the new construction of the fire station. This would be Ms. Barletto. You can hear it back there too, by the way, if you don't want to eat in front of anybody.
Hey, it's 6 o'clock and the new guy, it's already hungry. Hey.
Good evening, Mayor and
You didn't
Commissioners.
lose half of your body here. They're listening in the back room.
Are
Yeah.
they?
We're good.
Okay, I'm good. I'm pleased to bring you the First Amendment to the contract for construction of Fire Station 113. We have our team here at the table. This is Suzanne Meckler, who is our owner's representative with CDM Smith. This is Mayor Sam Ferrari, the principal at PGAL Architect, and Kevin Murphy with Gulf Building. And I'm going to turn it over to Mayor Ferrari now to give you a presentation on what we're here for tonight.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Commissioners. For the record, Sam Ferrari, retired mayor, no longer mayor.
I'm sorry, the Honorable former Mayor.
The dueling mayors here.
That's right.
All right, I leave it up to you.
Welcome.
I leave it up to you, Madam Mayor.
Welcome, Your Honor.
So this one in the middle.
Yes. There you go.
So we're excited to be here tonight. Worked a long time to get to this point. We've gone through
Yes, sir, that's an understatement.
a process, but I think everybody's aware of where the station is located on Lytton, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this slide. Our project timeline, back in April, we started the demolition of the old station, which was a milestone. We've gone through 2 variances, SPRAB for site plan approval, and we've begun the first phase of early work, which was the site work in addition to the demolition. And we're under that permit right now for utilities. So we're hoping for approval tonight so that we can award the GMP with a tentative groundbreaking in October, probably the middle to later October.
Or maybe Halloween.
or Halloween, there you go, with a completion in December of 2024, long awaited. You're probably aware the old station was 6,430 square feet, kind of a 3-bay station, really like a 2.5-bay station. It had been empty for years because of some building integrity issues, and they've been in a temporary facility for over 5 years. So the new proposed building is a 2-story, almost 16,000 square feet, designed to Cat 5, sleeping quarters for 13. That was an increase during design to accommodate future. All bays are drive-through versus back-in at the old station. And we've got heavy-duty concrete driveways to accommodate the fire trucks and their maneuvering on the site. We now also have guest ADA parking in front for the public if they needed to come to this building for either an emergency or a drop-off of a safe place child. And then there's all the utilities will now be underground versus overhead, 14 secure parking spaces, new emergency generator, also the new mast arm emergency signal, which we've been coordinating with Palm Beach County, much needed in front of this site. There's a bunch of wires between the Whole Foods and that whole intersection there. And then new 8-foot perimeter screening and security wall in the back to basically separate it from the neighborhood. Just pointing out entry parking, 14 secure parking. Could have done it on the way through, but we'll skip ahead. A first floor plan. These are the apparatus bays and support for the apparatus bays. This building meets the new NFPA 1500 requirements, which is basically a safer environment for the healthier environment for the firefighters. And this is a living quarters, and you'll see kind of the little arms sticking out. That's a vestibule that basically keeps the air separated between the living and the apparatus bay. We also have a feature in this building that'll allow on-site training. We're using one of the required stairwells as a training stair tower. The fire department came up with this idea where they can do in-service training versus going out to the training facility. And then an outdoor screen patio for the firefighters right off the day room. Second floor, all the living crew and laundry and support facilities, restrooms are over above the rest of the living quarters, and the bay area is just 1 story. Again, that training stair coming up. Took an Art Deco look for this building, which was kind of picked by the group as a whole and the city staff. Went through some generations on that. These are all views from Linton Butte Boulevard. Here's a roof view from the rear with the screen porch in the back, and you can see that training tower that has a bunch of openings and windows in it for basically ladder training, hose training. I'm going to just jump through these. These are just the building elevations, which are part of the contract documents. Side views, rear view. And then the most important part, the Public Works Department has reviewed this as well as CDM. We're looking for an approval of the GMP for $11,478,146 with the approval to move to phase 2 of the construction. A little bit of the details. So part of that GMP, the base contract is just over $10 million. Comes out to $637 a square foot. The traffic signalization with the mast arms, very expensive, $870,280. Owner's contingency is $500,000, so that total GMP, including the contingency, is $11,478,146. And so we thank you. Any questions?
Very good. To the commission. Any questions?
I'm ready to go.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Long time.
All right, entertain a motion.
Motion to approve 7D.
Second.
Call the roll, please. You guys are like,
I'm sorry.
Mayor Petrolia?
yes.
Mr. Frankel?
Yes.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Boylston?
Yes.
Ms. Burns?
Yes.
It's kind of like in stereo here. All
Thank you
right.
so much.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Congrats, and let's move.
See you at the groundbreaking.
It sounds great.
Tomorrow, right?
Tonight.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to 7E. This is approval of resolution number 188-23. Mr. Dunkley.
This is the approval of the towing agreement with COFS. As you may recall, we had brought the Westway towing contract to the commission. The commission exercised its right under the solicitation to reject the city's recommendation of award. You directed staff to negotiate with the number 2 proposer, who's COFS. City staff was able to negotiate an agreement, which is before you. So for purposes of the record, because I know during public comment some statements were made that the building was not in compliance with the solicitation. Staff did go out, I believe it was last week, they did a site visit, and the building is in compliance with the recommendations, with the requirements of the solicitation. The solicitation does allow the city to conduct site inspections up until the time of award. So from my opinion, there's no violation of the agreement. There were subsequently 2 bid protests were filed by Westway and by Priority. The chief financial officer and myself, we reviewed the bid protests. They were rejected, they were denied pursuant to the city's policies. Appeals were filed last week, and it is my understanding that today the city manager did deny those appeals. Those decisions are final pursuant to our policies and procedures manual. And the last thing I want to put on the record is that the policies and procedures manual does allow the city manager to essentially continue to move forward despite the fact that bid protests were filed. Mr. Moore did issue a memorandum to the purchasing department directing them to continue negotiating with COFS because we did not feel that moving forward without a formal agreement for these types of services that are used by various departments of the city was really a best practice, and it was a public health, safety, welfare issue. So we did follow our policies and file all those documents. So the agreement is before you today for your consideration.
And for the public commentary benefit, there's no other formal presentation that pretty well is covered. We've been over this over the last couple of weeks since we last visited, but this is a revenue outcome projected to be about $52,237.50 per year for a 3-year agreement. And with that, the recommendation is pretty straightforward and clear.
All right.
So good evening again. I am Pay Cadeau, the purchasing manager.
I don't
for
think you're
City-
on. There you go.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. I am Pay Cadeau, the purchasing manager for City of Delray, and we have Hugh Dunkley here, the chief financial officer. We're just going to quickly go over the solicitation timeline, and I'll address also some of the things that they mentioned. The request for qualifications was issued on February 24th, and the cone of silence again was instituted on the same day. Delivery of question deadline was March 20th, and the due date and time for delivery was April 12th. During that time, as Ms. Jellen mentioned, we did conduct the site visits, due diligence of all the firms, 3 firms that were submitted a proposal, and we then scheduled a technical evaluation and initial ranking on June 2nd. The committee elected for oral presentations and final rankings. So during the technical evaluation on June 2nd, the committee would have scored and ranked all the firms in order to then either shortlist or just move on to the awarded ranked vendor. But they elected for oral presentation, so I believe some of the confusion is the fact that they ranked initially during the technical evaluation, but then they had oral presentations and final rankings on June 19th, which would have re-ranked the firms. And so in that, it's not replacing a score. They actually ranked all firms again according to their findings and the oral presentation on June 19th. So that was the subsequent score that was presented herein. So negotiation sessions were then scheduled with the first ranked firm on July 10th and July 21st. The city, it was presented to the commission on August 15th. It was then rejected on the same day. And so we did move into negotiation sessions with the second ranked firm on August 23rd and August 28th. And we are here with the city commission for recommendation at this time. Go ahead. The solicitation was advertised via Periscope S2G, formerly known as BidSync. It was reviewed by 21 prospective vendors online. 3 submittals were received. The evaluation committee was appointed by our city manager, and it was reviewed and evaluated all the proposals based on the various factors. The criteria for the evaluation the solicitation itself, the proposer's experience, abilities, and references was 35 points. You had the proposer's size, diversity, condition, and location of fleet was a maximum of 35 points, and the proposer's storage facilities and locations was in consideration, and they received a maximum of 30 points, the total 100. Westway Towing, again, was ranked 288, ranked number 1. Coughs of Palm Beach was ranked 278, the second ranked, and Priority Towing was ranked 276, the third ranked firm. So,
on that note, I think we're all set. The recommendation, again, is clear. We discussed these details during a prior meeting.
Correct.
And a great deal of due diligence had been offered up until this very day. So likewise, the recommendation stands accordingly. So that's where we are. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
To the commission, any concerns, questions?
Nope, just to circle back around with our city attorney and city manager. No concerns on moving forward with resolution 188-23?
No, sir.
No.
Great.
Anyone else? No. I don't understand how every single time we get to the point of doing our towing that we have such, it's been an interesting journey from the moment that I took this position and before. It just never seems to be clear cut. I don't understand it. It just always seems to get into some mess. I'm looking at what was handed to us, and I'm looking at the Sunbiz, just the top, and I see Laura Fran as being an owner of an auto collision dealership and Coughs, having the same address. And not that that's a problem, but when you go further deeper in and you find a check from Laura Fran, collision specialist, I believe that's associated with Burgess. Is that what I understood? Which, not it's a problem, but again, there seems to be some tie-ins here that are not transparent to me, and that is so problematic. I just don't understand how we get to this point, and I wonder if the name, I know Laura is probably this Laura Jocabellis, but I'm wondering, is Fran related to Mr. Burgess? Because I know his wife's name.
His wife's name is Francesca.
Yeah. So I'm just kind of putting these things together and thinking, this is just problematic for me. I just don't know if it's, I don't know what to do. I'm being honest with you. I just feel as though, I mean, it was a problem from the beginning with what we were presented with Westway. I mean, that just was a problem when we heard about what was going on, and now we've got this, and the question as to whether or not there was a number 2 that went to number 3, I don't know. I just got some reservations. I know that was explained.
It was, and at the end of the day, they do a preliminary ranking.
Yep.
They listen to presentations, and they're able to re-rank.
Re-rank, exactly.
And that's right in the solicitation.
Yep.
So, a lot of the things that they're complaining about were refuted by the plain language of the solicitation.
So taking that out, there's still just issues here that I'm concerned about. I mean,
Well, I'll tell you, and that's exactly why I wanted to hear from the city attorney and city manager, if they're confident in moving forward. Because what I'll tell you is some of the comments that were made, which I wasn't going to address in regards to Rick building my car. I'm a gearhead. Rick Burgess is a gearhead. I built my own car, and I got hundreds of photos to show you that I built that car. And so if everything else in that packet is as much nonsense as that, then I'm confident in moving forward. And if you recall from the meeting, I had no issue with moving forward with the number 1 ranked. It was my colleagues that brought up issues in regards to customer service, in regards to past ownership. I had no issue moving forward with number 1. So, if staff is confident in moving forward with this,
I mean, the allegation is that there's a conflict of interest between you and Mr. Burgess. I know you and I spoke, for a conflict of interest to exist, for an ethical violation to exist, there has to be a financial relationship between you and Mr. Burgess. Simply being friends and posting about something you did with your friend on Facebook, in my opinion, does not rise to the level of an ethical violation, such that I actually was offended that a lawyer would put that in writing, because I think that's a serious allegation to make against a public official. It's essentially accusing them of committing a crime. And so when we base things on information and belief and on conjecture and speculation, yeah, it got denied really quickly. And it was a very easy decision on my part and Mr. Dunkley's to write that letter. Mr. Moore reviewed everything. He reviewed the letter that Hugh and I wrote, and he felt comfortable denying it because it was the same rewriting of the same allegations. There was nothing new that was brought forward that could make him potentially settle the dispute, potentially kick this solicitation out. But frankly, Mayor, I'm going to tell you, if we redid the solicitation, it's going to be the same outcome. It's going to be the very definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. They're going to complain. They're not happy. I even put case law in the response, because just because they disagree with the city's decision, we did it in an exercise of honest discretion. We were not arbitrary and capricious, and the commission has every right to reject a contract. That's within your purview. It's within our policies, it's in our solicitation. They just don't like it. And I get it. It's a business decision, right? It's a loss. But at the end of the day, to accuse an elected official of an ethical violation based on, information and belief, it's offensive. And it got denied very quickly with some very strong language.
As such, ladies and gentlemen, to answer your question, Vice Mayor, ladies and gentlemen, we're all set. That's it. There's nothing else.
Entertain a motion.
Motion to approve resolution number 188-23.
Second.
All right, call the roll, please.
Mr. Frankel?
Yes.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Boylston?
Yes.
Ms. Burns?
Yes.
Mayor Petrolia?
No. All right, moving on. 7F. Nomination for the appointment for Code Enforcement Board. This is Ms. Burns.
Yes, nominate Terrence Delahanty.
Second.
Any concerns, questions, comments? Seeing none, call the roll, please.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Boylston?
Yes.
Ms. Burns?
Yes.
Mayor Petrolia?
Yes.
Mr. Frankel?
Yes.
All right, moving on to Resolution 191-23.
I'll take this one, Madam Mayor.
Yeah, I thought it was Mr. Orris. Okay, go ahead.
Actually, he's out, so I'll go ahead and take it. And this is simply a special event sponsorship request involving the Delray Beach Bed Race. Max Engage, who is the principal of this particular consideration, is available. However, we've asked Special Events Coordinator Nancy Krasinski to help be available to address specific questions on behalf of the review process as exercised by CTEC and others involved. So if she is available, I think, however, it would be productive to go ahead and give the applicant an opportunity to speak about this particular consideration, as I believe he has a formal presentation he would like to offer. Yes?
I have the application.
Please come to the microphone at the podium, please.
Good evening. Max Engage, 1705 Northwest 4th Avenue, Delray Beach. We are here today requesting a city sponsorship for the special event of the bed races scheduled for October 7, 2023. This is in honor of the legacy event that graced Pineapple Grove for about 12 years, starting in 2001. This is a new version of that, a revival in sorts, for the very reason that the first one was started in the off the beaten path from Atlantic Avenue, 2 blocks north of Atlantic. This one is 2 blocks south of Atlantic, in an underutilized area. Based on the event that we held in April, we had about 1,500 people at this family-friendly public event that many had, for the very first time, been 2 blocks south of Atlantic, as they expressed to us. We are celebrating 3 generations now of this event. Some of the participants have now included their children and who have grown up, and it's nice to see grandparents, parents, and children, whether they're a participant or an attendee, be a part of this event. It is also not directly part of the 2019 Osceola Park Neighborhood Redevelopment Plan, but it is part of the bringing awareness to this underutilized area at the time that this area is being revitalized. Brian Rosen as...
So just to add, if I may, ladies and gentlemen, to help the City Commission, the event involves about $300,000 in sponsorship support with donations anticipated to support the Delray Beach Fire Benevolent and also to the Achievement Center. So you're looking to make a contribution in terms of proceeds raised from this event. The cost estimates involve police overtime, fire department overtime, public works overtime, public works resources, and some ancillary activities not to exceed $3,000 altogether. So that's the principal concern or question that the City Commission may wish to entertain relative to authorizing this particular application. So I just thought I'd summarize that background to assist the presentation process. Likewise, we can go from there.
Thank you. About the finances, most of the one-time finances were done in April, where we did not seek any city sponsorship, and therefore the expenses this time around and moving forward, this is going to be would like to be an annual event every October as it used to be, but the expenses will be rather low based on last year's because of those one-time expenses such as building the beds. Therefore, the projected donations are, we're very proud to be able to project these donations to the Fire and Achievement Center.
Okay. Anything else? No?
May I ask Brian to say a few words? May I ask?
You're the applicant, right, for this?
Yeah.
Okay. If we have questions, we'll ask.
Okay.
Thank you. I guess my question is that this is $3,000 for sponsorship. Is this a cash sponsorship, or is this using the services of the city?
It is the services of the city, police department, fire department, public works,
Do we
and
know
ancillary
what,
public works
do we know what
resources.
percentage that is of the what's going? You know, I mean, we have a policy in place. Yes.
Yes.
Is this within the policy?
Yes.
Okay, so why are we having to make the decision?
Special event applications are all now a function of the City Commission per direction offered a few months ago, and the special event policy is being executed to reflect that. So, likewise, this is being brought before you all for consideration.
Okay. Do you want to?
So I'll say that I absolutely agree with the term used, legacy event. And I was at the last event, which I guess maybe was like a test event to see if there was interest. And there was an incredible amount of interest and so many people saying how happy they were that the bed races were back in Delray Beach. I think if we don't sponsor this for the nominal sponsorship of $3,000 of city employees' times, if we were to try to produce the bed race, which we absolutely should keep alive, it would be much more expensive than that. So I think this is a fantastic partnership. Thank you for bringing back a legacy event to Delray and being thoughtful enough to put it in a new location so that I can do for the south side as I did for the north side of Second, and I will be in support.
Okay. Anyone else? Experts? No? Anything?
I'll just echo Vice Mayor's comments. I was at the one in April too. It was a great time. Everyone loved it. It was just a great community event. So I think that I'm in favor of it. So we'll leave it at that. Thank you.
And if it meets the policy, I'm definitely for it, supporting of it.
Okay.
Entertain a motion.
Motion to approve Resolution 191-23.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Boylston?
Yes.
Ms. Burns?
Yes.
Mayor Petrolia?
Yes.
Mr. Frankel?
Yes.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, public hearings, second readings. We're going to skip over 8A through C since we already addressed that. We're going to 8D, ordinance number 29-23.
An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Delray Beach, Florida, updating the capital improvement plan schedule and the comprehensive plan of the City of Delray Beach for fiscal year 2023-24 to fiscal year 2027-28 in accordance with the requirements of policy CIE 1.2.1 and CIE 1.2.6 of the capital improvement element, providing a conflicts clause, providing a severability clause, providing an effective date, and further purposes, and this is second reading.
Good evening, Anthea Giannottis. I don't know that we need a presentation. This is actually the formal adoption of the CIP that's adopted through the city's resolutions into the comprehensive plan.
Which was accomplished during the last meeting.
Exactly.
That's a great presentation.
You're welcome. You're welcome. The best. But we have to open it up to public comment.
Tell Neil Schiller how to do those guys.
Whoa.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see him.
Oh, yeah, sure. All right, any questions?
Public
I'm
comment.
sorry, public comment, that's correct. Anyone here to speak on ordinance number 29-23? Seeing no one, public comment is closed. To the commission, entertain a motion.
Motion to approve ordinance number 29-23.
Second.
Call the roll.
Ms. Burns?
Yes.
Mayor Petrolia?
Yes.
Mr. Frankel?
Yes.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Boylston?
Yes.
All right, moving on to ordinance number 28-23.
An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Delray Beach, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Delray Beach, Florida, amending Chapter 101, Parks, Beaches, and Recreation, Section 101.32, Assemblies to prohibit the closure of the Atlantic Avenue Bridge, the George Bush Boulevard Bridge, and the Linton Boulevard Bridge during a special event, providing a conflicts clause, a severability clause, authority to codify, providing an effective date, and for other purposes. This is my ordinance. I figured at this point you'd have enough presentations that you know what this one's about. I do have the fire chief and the police chief here in case you wanted any testimony. This is in our policy, so if you don't feel comfortable adopting it to put in our code of ordinances, which I do feel is the best way to put people on notice as to what the city's requirements are, it is in our special events policy that we were just discussing, so it's still in there. The other thing I was just going to put out there is this does not apply to city parades, so our parades would still be able to have bridge closures, and there is a waiver process within this section of the code that if somebody had a really good reason for wanting to close a bridge during a special event, they could come before the commission for approval.
All right, so again, we are on public comments, so public hearing, so if there's anybody with public comments on ordinance number 28-23, now would be the time to step forward and make your comments. Seeing no one, public comments closed. To the commission, any comments, concerns? Entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mayor Petrolia?
Yes.
Mr. Frankel?
Yes.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Boylston?
Yes.
Ms. Burns?
Yes.
All right, ordinance 35-23, Mr. Jellin.
An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Delray Beach, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Delray Beach, Florida, amending Chapter 101, Parks, Beaches, and Recreation, Section 101.36, additional rules applying to parks, recreational facilities, and the municipal beach, subsection B, hours of operation, to clarify the hours of operation for the municipal beach, providing a conflicts clause, a severability clause, authority to codify, providing an effective date, and further purposes. This merely codifies our dawn to dusk unless otherwise posted rule.
Very good. All right, again, we are at public hearings. If anybody would like to speak to ordinance number 35-23, please step forward. Seeing no one, public comment is closed. To the commission, any comments? Entertain a motion.
Motion to approve ordinance 35-23.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Boylston?
Yes.
Ms. Burns?
Yes.
Mayor Petrolia?
Yes.
Mr. Frankel?
Yes.
All right, moving on to ordinance 34-23.
An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Delray Beach, Florida, creating an entirely new Title 12, Taxation of the Code of Ordinances by enacting a new Chapter 122, additional homestead exemption for persons 65 years or older, authorizing an additional $25,000 homestead exemption for eligible persons, providing a conflicts clause, a severability clause, and authority to codify, providing an effective date and further purposes. And this is the codification of the additional homestead that was directed by the City Commission.
That's all.
Oh.
Codification accordingly, no formal presentation. I think we discussed this pretty well. This is that additional opportunity.
Okay. Again, we're at public hearing, so if there's anybody who wants to speak to ordinance number 34-23, please step forward. No movement. Public comment is closed. I have a question. My husband has a question. I'm the young one that lives in my household. My husband actually would qualify for this. Does it matter if there's two people and there's one younger, or does it go with the older?
It's just one
the old guy?
qualifying. Precisely.
He's going to be so happy to hear that. There you go. One for you, hon. All right, very good.
Tony.
Any other comments? Hearing none, entertain a motion.
Motion to approve ordinance number 34-23.
Second.
All right, call the roll, please.
Mr. Boylston?
Yes.
Ms. Burns?
Yes.
Mayor Petrolia?
Yes.
Mr. Frankel?
Yes.
Mr. Long?
Thank you, Mr. Dunkley. All right, moving on to our first readings, and we'll start with 9A ordinance number 21-23.
So if we can do 9A, 9B, and 9C together, they're a
Oh, that's
package.
right. They're all three together. We got two that are quasi judicial, so if anybody wants to speak with 9B or C, you'll need to make sure that you have been sworn in.
Just
No,
C.
just C.
Oh, I'm sorry?
Just C was quasi judicial.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. Thank you. C.
All right, first one, ordinance 21-23, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Delray Beach, Florida, annexing into the City of Delray Beach a parcel of land located west of Barwick Road, immediately north of Lake Worth Drainage District, L31 Canal, and immediately south of 133rd Road South, which measures approximately 5.08 acres, as more particularly described herein, and is situated contiguous to the existing municipal limits of the City of Delray Beach, providing for inclusion of this parcel into the city boundaries and a redefinition of the city boundaries pursuant to Section 171.044, subsection 2, Florida statutes, providing for conformance with all voluntary annexation procedures as set forth in Section 171.044 Florida statutes, providing for filing with Palm Beach County and the Department of State, providing a conflicts clause and a severability clause, providing an effective date, and for other purposes. Ordinance number 22-23, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Delray Beach, Florida, adopting a small-scale land use map amendment, redesignating a parcel of land measuring approximately 5.08 acres located west of Barwick Road, immediately north of Lake Worth Drainage District, L31 Canal, and immediately south of 133rd Road South, as more particularly described herein, from Palm Beach County medium residential to low-density residential, pursuant to the provisions of the Community Planning Act, Florida Statute Section 163.3187, providing a conflicts clause and a severability clause, providing an effective date, and for other purposes. Ordinance number 23-23, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Delray Beach, Florida, rezoning a parcel of land measuring approximately 5.08 acres located west of Barwick Road, immediately north of Lake Worth Drainage District, L31 Canal, and immediately south of 133rd Road South, from Palm Beach County agriculture residential to single-family R1A, as more particularly described herein, amending the City of Delray Beach zoning map, July 6, 2021, providing a conflicts clause and a severability clause, providing an effective date, and for other purposes. Because this one is quasi-judicial, the applicant is here. We have agreed that neither side will make a presentation today. The only thing we need to do is open this up for public comment.
So should I open that up now or have the first two pass first?
I would open it up now.
Okay, so if there's anybody here that would like to speak to 9C ordinance number 23-23, now would be the time to step forward.
I don't think I was sworn in.
Okay, so we need to get you sworn in.
I'm so sorry.
No problem. If there's anybody else here that wants to speak to this, we'll swear you in as well.
Raise your right hand, please. By the authority vested in me as the notary of the state of Florida, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, very good. So just state your name, your address.
Jacqueline Bronke. I live in Sable Lakes, 1310 Laurelwood Lane, which is across Barwick Road from the proposed project. I'm president of Phase 3 of Sable Lakes. I represent 125 homes. We're the largest phase. And again, I'm here because considering the development, we're all for more housing. That's not the problem. There's not a road. The developer failed or relied on the goodwill of the commission to hedge the rules, failed to provide access to the property by purchasing an additional property because there's no place to widen the road. There's no way to make it safe for two-lane traffic plus a sidewalk for children. There's no way. So to consider development without that essential piece, that's why the Planning and Zoning Committee frowned on it last year and failed to approve it because of the road, a couple other things, but the road was the main consideration. So I'm baffled as to why everybody all of a sudden was, yay, let's do this. I believe the developer has a piece that's maybe 50 feet where there looks like a large entrance, but it's not the entrance on Barwick Road. It's in the middle of the property. So it serves for nothing for cars. So I sent pictures to your group email of what the alleyway, as the Planning and Zoning Committee described it once, or lane, as they described it the other time, so you get the message.
there's not a road, there can't be a road unless they buy another property. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, come on up. State your name and address, and you have 3 minutes.
Hi, I'm Mike Tang from 3865 Sable Lakes Road, Delray Beach, Florida. I'm a longtime resident of Sable Lakes, and I have these certain points for the commission. I've also emailed this in. Dear Commissioner Mayor, thank you for taking the time to consider the points that will be made in this email. Basically, they're for 9A, 9B, and 9C, specifically 9C. Annexing the said parcel of land on 133rd Road South into the city and rezoning it at the dwelling density R1 may on paper appear to meet some of the standards and requirements of the city's future land use and comprehensive plan, Department of Transportation, power, water drainage, etc. However, in practicality, as experienced by residents along the neighborhood corridor of Barwick Road, the developable land space in the vicinity is essentially at capacity. We're a very crowded neighborhood. When it comes to the density and number of homes, dwellings, the proposed R1A dwelling density at 1 to 5 dwelling units per acre might be marginally acceptable if the 5.08 acre parcel be developed at the lowest possible density R1A would permit, hopefully 1. That would mean about 5 units. The width of 133rd Road South, if not increased substantially to meet city land development standards to accommodate an additional 16 homes, which is being proposed, I believe, or in future, even more homes to said parcel and additional possible parcels that are for annexation to the west. And even with an added sidewalk, it cannot safely or effectively mitigate the volume of traffic that this stretch of Barwick Road during the peak hours, particularly during the school drop-off and pickup hours at the nearby Banyan Creek Elementary School. The entrance and exit road to and from Sable Lakes on the east side of Barwick Road sits directly across from the 133rd Road South entrance and exit, and has particularly high traffic volume, and adding more vehicular traffic to 133rd Road South without the appropriate improvements to the entrance and city land development set minimal width of 133rd Road South, the safety of drivers and pedestrians will be severely compromised. If this parcel is annexed into the city, there should be no compromise at all to the safety and security aspect to all the established families and communities in the vicinity when it comes to speed of response, time, and accessibility to homes and neighborhoods from the city fire station on the corner of Lake Ida Road and Barwick Road. Barely or failing to meet with the requirements of the width of the road at 133rd Road South for fire and emergency vehicles and equipment access is not acceptable, as it involves the safety of constituents and can mean the difference between life and death.
Thank you.
Of families.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, seeing no one, public comment is closed. And to the commission, oh yes.
Mr. Schuler wants an opportunity for a rebuttal or
Oh, sure.
cross-examination.
Sure.
No needed.
Go right ahead.
Not needed. No, thank
Okay.
you.
All right, very good. All right, so any questions, concerns? No? We'll entertain a motion. We have to go ordinance by ordinance.
Again, I just want to make it clear, like we did at the beginning, that this is first reading.
And typically, our procedure is just to move these items to second reading, where you'll have a presentation, you can have a full board discussion. This is just more perfunctory.
Right. Motion to approve ordinance number 21-23.
Second.
All right, call the roll, please.
Ms. Burns?
Yes.
Mayor Petrolia?
No.
Mr. Frankel?
Yes.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Boylston?
Yes.
All right, moving on to ordinance 22-23.
Motion to approve ordinance number 22-23.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mayor Petrolia?
No.
Mr. Frankel?
Yes.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Boylston?
Yes.
Ms. Burns?
Yes.
And moving on to ordinance 23-23.
Motion to approve ordinance number 23-23.
Second, but I do have a question. Do we have to do disclosures, quasi-judicial?
No.
Oh,
Oh, did
yes.
you?
I'm sorry.
I'm
You
just
can-
asking.
On this
Let's
one.
take the, correct. Let's finish the vote and then you can disclose after
Okay.
the fact.
All right, very
Thank
good.
you.
Second, just wanted to mention.
Thank you. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Frankel?
Yes.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Boylston?
Yes.
Ms. Burns?
Yes.
Mayor Petrolia?
No. All right, so quasi judicial.
Right, this is quasi judicial, so we should have had ex parte disclosures. We can do them now.
Okay, very good. So,
Previously disclosed, I spoke to Mr. Schiller and the applicant.
all right.
And there's a lot of emails on the server.
Yes.
Yeah, I did as well prior to the last meeting on this.
All right.
Yeah, prior to the last meeting, nothing since then.
Yeah. Same, and I've spoken to several residents and one of the property owners at the corner of Barwick and 133rd.
And I spoke with the same property owner, Klein, I believe it was,
Yes, Vivek Klein.
and all of the emails that are on my server. That's it.
I
All right.
apologize, thank you.
No problem. I appreciate that. Thank you. All right. So to Commissioner Frankel for bringing that up.
Sure.
All right. 9D, ordinance number 30-23.
An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Delray Beach, Florida, rezoning .4 acres of land located at 1201 George Bush Boulevard from residential office to medium-density residential, as more particularly described herein, amending the City of Delray Beach zoning map, July 6, 2021, providing a conflict clause and a severability clause, providing an effective date and further purposes. Same thing, this is quasi judicial.
So
Let's do
yeah,
ex parte.
let's go ahead and do ex parte right now. This is again the George Bush Boulevard, 1201 George Bush Boulevard. Starting with the Deputy Vice Mayor.
None.
None.
Commissioner?
No.
And
Nope.
Vice Mayor? None for me as well.
And this
so.
is Mr. Schiller's, you're going to waive your presentation as well? Thank you.
Okay.
So
All right,
just public comment.
Entertain a motion?
No, public comment.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. Quasi judicial. If there's anybody here that wants to speak to ordinance number 30-23, please step forward. Seeing no one, public comment is closed. Entertain a motion.
Motion to approve ordinance number 30-23.
Second?
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Boylston?
Yes.
Ms. Burns?
Yes.
Mayor Petrolia?
Yes.
Mr. Frankel?
Yes.
All right. Moving on to ordinance 31-23.
An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Delray Beach, Florida, amending the land development regulations of the City of Delray Beach Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2, Administrative Provisions, by repealing the adopted Chapter 2 and replacing it in its entirety to update the existing regulations, to remove duplicative provisions, to provide a more efficient development approval process by establishing review thresholds for site plan review, to update the responsibilities of reviewing officials and authorities to be consistent with the review thresholds for the site plan review process, providing a conflicts clause, a severability clause, authority to codify, and providing an effective date. This is first reading. This is the Chapter 2 changes that we've been talking about.
All right.
Yeah.
Any questions or concerns? If not, entertain a motion.
Motion to approve ordinance number 31-23.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Boylston?
Yes.
Ms. Burns?
Yes.
Mayor Petrolia?
Yes.
Mr. Frankel?
Yes.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
I just looked at the next one.
If you're hungry, now would be a good time to get a snack.
Ordinance number 32-23.
Here we go. An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Delray Beach, Florida, amending the land development regulations of the City of Delray Beach Code of Ordinances, Chapter 4, Zoning Regulations, Article 4.1, Section 4.1.4, Use of Lots of Record to update providing updated language for clarity and consistency with Chapter 2, Administrative Provisions. Amending Article 4.2, Annexation and Initial Zoning by repealing and reserving Article 4.2 in its entirety to eliminate duplication with Chapter 2, Administrative Provisions. Amending Article 4.3, District Regulations, General Provisions, Section 4.3.3, Special Requirements for Specific Uses, by adopting a new subsection 4.3.3 BB, Performance Standards for Multifamily Development for consistency with Chapter 2, Administrative Provisions. Amending Section 4.3.4, Base District Development Standards, subsection J, Height, providing updated language for clarity and consistency with Chapter 2. Amending Article 4.4, Base Zoning District, Section 4.4.1, Agriculture Zone District A, Section 4.4.2, Rural Residential RR Zone District, Section 4.4.3, Single Family Residential R1 District, Section 4.4.4, Mobile Home MH District, Section 4.4.5, Low Density Residential RL District, Section 4.4.6, Medium Density Residential RM, Section 4.4.7, Planned Residential Development PRD District, Section 4.4.9, General Commercial GC District, Section 4.4.10, Automotive Commercial AC District, Section 4.4.11, Neighborhood Commercial NC District, Section 4.4.12, Planned Commercial PC District, Section 4.4.13, Central Business CBD District. Section 4.4.14, Resort Tourism RT District. Section 4.4.15, Planned Office Center POC District. Section 4.4.16, Professional and Office POD District. Section 4.4.17, Residential RO District. Section 4.4.19, Mixed Industrial and Commercial, nobody's here, MIC District. Section 4.4.20, Industrial I District. Section 4.4.21, Community Facilities, CF District. Section 4.4.22, Open Space OC District. Section 4.4.23, Conservation CD District. Section 4.4.24, Old School Square Historic District, OSHAD. Section 4.4.25, Special Activities District, SAD. Section 4.4.26, Light Industrial, LI District. Section 4.4.27, Open Space and Recreation, OSR District. Section 4.4.29, Mixed Residential Office and Commercial, MROC District, providing updated language for clarity and consistency with Chapter 2, amending Article 4.7, Family Workforce Housing for consistency with Chapter 2, and providing updated language for clarity and consistency with Chapter 2, providing a conflicts clause and a severability clause, providing an effective date, and for other purposes. This caption is going to be fixed, because this is a little messy. And this is first reading. Just in time, Mayor.
I know.
That was a lot. That was a lot.
Any comments? Entertain a
I feel
motion.
like I need like an oxygen mask.
Public.
Oh, yeah, that's right, it's public comment. No.
Oh.
9.
Motion to approve ordinance number 32-23.
Second.
Call the roll.
Mayor Petrolia?
Yes.
Mr. Frankel?
Yes.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
And Mr. Boylston?
Yes.
And here's Ms. Burns, if you want to vote.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Let me do it again.
9G, ordinance number 33-23.
An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Delray Beach, Florida, amending the land development regulations of the City of Delray Beach Code of Ordinances by amending Chapter 3, Performance Standards, Article 3.2, Performance Standards, Section 3.2.4, Standards for specific areas or purposes, to include standards for transportation demand management, amending Chapter 6, Infrastructure and Public Property, Article 6.1, Design Standards and Requirements, Section 6.1.14, Transit, to require provisions for bus shelters for qualifying developments, providing a conflicts clause, a severability clause, authority to codify, and providing an effective date. And this is first reading.
All right, entertain a motion.
Motion to approve ordinance number 33-230.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mayor Petrolia?
Yes.
Mr. Frankel?
Yes.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Boylston?
Yes.
Ms. Burns?
Yes.
All right, comments and inquiries on non-agenda item, Mr. Moore.
I yield at this time. Thank you.
See something under
That's
city
mine.
attorney?
Yes, that's mine, 10B1. So in order to memorialize a process that we've had in place for reimbursement of elected officials' expenses to handle not just litigation, but also ethics complaints, I drafted this policy for the commission. Essentially, it would require the commission, in the event that one of your colleagues received an ethics complaint that was dismissed, you would have it on an agenda, you would review it, you would determine if the amount of requested reimbursement is reasonable, and you would approve it. I think it's just good practice. It's also in conformity with certain AG opinions of Florida statutes, and so I'm asking you to approve this.
Okay, do we just take a vote?
Yes, please.
All right, entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Frankel?
Yes.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Boylston?
Yes.
Ms. Burns?
Yes.
Mayor Petrolia?
Yes.
I have one more thing.
Sure.
So we've been talking about the Atlantic Avenue Historic District.
Yep.
And the designation of it. Staff did put a little bit of a hold on it in order to, Anthea's calling it a historic workshop. I like the word symposium. I think it sounds smarter. But we're bringing professors and experts in this field to come meet with the public, have a panel discussion. It'll be a 2-day event where the first day will be more educational. The second day, it will be for a Q&A with members of the public. We're looking at doing it October 26th and 27th. It's going to be recorded. However, it's my understanding that the commission or certain members of the commission will be at a conference. So we just want to make sure that everybody's okay with those dates, despite the fact that you may not be here. It was really difficult to get that date and to coordinate everybody, but we just want to make sure that everybody's on board. And like I said, it is going to be videotaped.
What's the date again?
26, October 26th. We're up.
October.
Some of us are going to be up in.
FRA,
Yes.
yeah. I think everybody was scheduled, but I'm gonna go back off because there are some things that are happening that week that I should attend, so I'm gonna bag out. But I understand everybody else is gonna be there, so I think it's important just to do it.
I don't think.
Great.
Yep, I agree.
Thank you. That's
Great.
it.
All right, so to the commission then. Start all this in. Vice Mayor?
Yes, I know we were discussing it early, and I sent over some communication to Mr. Moore, and it looks like I know we're getting a lot of questions about the parade for Cocoa.
Yes.
And the family did say that at the earliest it would be November.
All
She's
right.
busy traveling the world.
Understood.
Um,
Good announcement because I'm getting a lot of people inquiring
Yes.
about that, so I appreciate you bringing that up.
I know that in this next budget, we funded an additional police officer and coincided motorcycle as well. Since we have heard so much from the community all around Barwick, I've spent some time out there this last week, especially in the morning and in the afternoon, right? Drop-off pickup.
Wow, huh?
I've actually gone out there every hour of the day for this last week. The rest of the time, it's okay.
Yeah.
But those
Pick up
two
and
times are
drop off.
bad. But the thing that's happening now, I guess we used to have a police officer at the first entrance for Sable Lakes, and now people are cutting through, and it's not really a shortcut because it's long and windy road. But if you go fast enough, you can make it a shortcut. And there's a lot of that, and I got to see it with my own eyes. I asked Mr. Moore to come out with me, along with the chief, so that you guys can see that. But now knowing and speaking to some of the residents that used to be the case, that we used to have a police officer there, I think it's important maybe to visit putting another one there.
So that would
If
be
we
an
can.
administrative function, and I'm working with the chief of police accordingly. So given the fact that you've expressed those concerns, and I've had an opportunity to take a look at it on my own, so I think we'll be collaborating accordingly. Give us the next couple of weeks, and I think we'll be in position to offer direction administratively.
Anything we can do during those two periods. I am supportive. We had a lot of information tonight about our stray cat program. So I'm supportive of the $25,000 again. I know that we've only been able to use about half of that, which sounds good, but it really isn't. If we budget for it, we should try to use it. So if there's any way to engage this community to help us fully utilize what we have budgeted for, it's supposed to be utilized, I'd be in full support. And Mayor, you had educated me on when you remove them from one area that another colony comes. And I was watching a documentary of my girls the other night, and all cats do that.
That's
by the
right.
way. Pumas in Patagonia, and I'm literally sitting there going, I know this because of the mayor told me.
No, it's so true because we had a problem on FAU campus. Couple kids leave cats behind, and the
Right.
next thing you know, you've got a colony now started. They tried eradicating, and all that happened was more cats came in, and they were not neutered and spayed. So it just produced a greater abundance. And so with respect to Mrs. Wright, who came up here, who is very concerned about this, the only way to get in front of this is to do what we're doing. If you do nothing, it's just going to continue to expand,
Right.
and you're going to have even worse problems because the cats get sick and they're diseased, and it's a real problem.
Yeah.
So this is the way to deal with it.
I think one of her biggest concern is where they're feeding the
Yeah,
cat.
they should not be feeding them on the person's property that is saying no to it. However, they cannot feed them on public land, so they have to have an okay from owners, and that's what I think young Miss Casal came up and said. She goes and knocks and finds people that are accepting of them to be able to be fed. But I agree.
They're being fed in alleys, and
Yeah.
so,
They
different
have-
neighborhoods is happening different things. So I think her biggest concern was
Right.
where the
they're
food was
fed.
being left.
Yeah, she doesn't want
Not,
around
not
her.
that she was opposed to the neutering and the
Right.
spading and all that kind
Right.
of stuff.
Is there anything we can do to solve that problem? I mean, we're all in agreement that the TNVR program is crucial to controlling the cat population. how do we prevent that very issue that the folks are bringing up? Is there anything we can do to?
You know, first things first, I think we need to educate, because
Yeah.
most people don't understand. They just think just round them up and get rid of them and then they'll be gone. That's not the way it works. So the
Right.
first and foremost thing, and I think that Gina's back there, we can ask her to put something out educating people about this. Because the problem wouldn't be there if people were responsible and were spaying their cats and their animals, or not just letting them go. It wouldn't be a problem. The problem.
Gina, if you need a spokesperson, Gina, or like a whole bunch of cat pictures, let me know.
Yeah. So starting with that education piece, I think, is important. And then, of course, we need to make sure that we respect people who don't want the cats around their property, making sure that they're not being fed so they're not gravitating towards that property at feeding time, I think is really important. Yeah, and thank you for your adoption of those animals as well. That's part of the whole process in between, finding homes for those that can be adopted out. And I know that Ms. Cassell has adopted a couple of the cats along the way too. One which I was shocked when I saw the picture. It was so sad, but the cat looks great now and is very happy. So good for them.
And just to give due credit to groups like Animal Rescue Force, there's a lot of groups like that around town. Like I got to really interact with this community when we went through this process, and there's so many folks out there that we heard from some of them tonight that dedicate a lot of time and energy to caring for these animals. And what was mentioned in the public comments, the exponential rate
Yes,
which they can
it's
reproduce
unbelievable.
is crazy.
Yes.
And so it really is a problem you have to stay on top of.
And to the vice mayor's point, we want to spend that money, and we want them to ask us for more, because what then we're doing is we are really hitting that population and making it so they aren't breeding, and that will start to eradicate the problem. They don't realize that, but it will take time, but it does eradicate the problem. All right, very good. Thank you for those comments. Ms. Burns?
Oh, yes, I wanted to know if I could get consensus, or if anybody else was having an issue with the week of Thanksgiving. We have a commission meeting.
We don't.
Yes, we do.
Well.
Oh.
I don't think so, do we?
No, we do.
Yeah.
It was.
Oh,
Yeah,
well,
it has
that
been
was a mistake
scheduled
on my part,
for-
because I'm usually pretty much on that.
And if I may, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to share openly I will be away the previous week.
Oh.
That's all right. We don't need.
Well, do you have a backup?
You got to back up.
I'll make one. Yes,
All right,
do.
so we have the 7th, and we don't have the 14th, but we do
Correct.
have the 21st. We should probably see if we can go ahead and do it on the 14th.
Swap those?
See if we can move that over.
And I will not be in
Freeze it
attendance on the
up.
14th.
Sorry, usually I try to do that, but I must have missed that one.
Okay, thank you. That was it. And just wanted to say congratulations to our Coco,
Yes.
our champion, U.S. Open champion, and glad to hear that the family will entertain the community in November. And, she does need her break, but everybody's so excited and wanting to get it on right now, so have patience.
Yeah, absolutely. Commissioner?
If you want to learn more about Coco, look at page 6. They had a nice little write-up about her celebration at the Ray Hotel, which is wonderful notoriety for not only the city, but also that great property.
Sure.
I had a great meeting last week with the city, in coordination with the city manager's office, talking about some of the issues that I previously brought up and some of the other concerns some residents have brought up from 95 to the beach. And I think what came out of that meeting was further meetings are going to be set up with you all. I learned a lot. So Mr. Moore, thank you. Lynn, thank you. Our police chief, thank you. Sammy, I can see you back there, thank you. And Renee and Christine were there. I think we have some good potential solutions regarding some more officers that the CRA might be able to assist with in this area. So I think it'll be great for you all to meet with that group.
Right.
And to all that celebrate, including our police chief, Lashana Tova, Happy New Year to our Jewish residents. Thanks.
Thank
And
you.
Commissioner Frankel, before the meeting, we had a friendly wager, 9:30 over under. What did you take again?
So I took over. But here's the thing.
I believe-
it's called the reverse jinx. Look how under it is. Yes. See, it worked.
Deputy Vice Mayor,
We covered a lot of ground tonight. Really impressive. Well done, Mayor.
Thank you. No presentation.
got that gavel, moving them along.
A couple quick things. One, in regards to the workshop we had with the DDA and the Old School Square Board for the Arts, Center for the Arts, I tuned in remotely, so I missed a little bit of it here and there because the internet at my hotel wasn't great. But I just wanted to, based on an email that Laura actually sent, Ms. Simon actually sent to Mr. Moore that he shared with us, clarifying the DDA's position and laying out 3 different options, which thank you, by the way, Ms. Simon, that was very helpful. It seems the DDA's consensus, it was option C, which is amending the ILA to allow for the CREST classrooms to be removed from the ILA and potentially the building. This would then allow the city to move forward with either an open solicitation or an agreement with the OSS CFA. I don't know what the consensus really came out to during that meeting because I missed a lot of it, but for me, I like option C as well, and I would like to see the city consider an open solicitation in that regard. So if there was any lack of clarity on where we ended up at the end of that discussion and any was needed, I figured I'd bring it up now. Maybe we could at least talk about it and figure out where we're going to go with that.
Yeah, I completely forgot about that email.
I think that did your board already make the decision, or was that just a recommendation?
Good evening. So we had our meeting last, Laura Simon, for the record, Executive Director. We had a meeting last Monday, and there was a lot of discussion and discussion around the options of either DDA or city. A majority of our board had agreed with the open solicitation, but also in conclusion really looking at potentially amending the ILA-4 in one way or the other. And post-meeting, we also did have other discussions with our board on one-on-one. I did, just to try to get a consensus coming up, because I didn't know what the discussion would be here tonight. And there is a sense for us to look at the best way forward, which was to amend the ILA.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that I'm okay with that, just moving forward with amending and taking.
So I'm going to amend the ILA and to essentially remove the CREST Theater and the classrooms from the license that was given to the DDA. And then in the interim, do you want that to go through and then we do the solicitation, or do you want these things together?
Let's just move.
And then we'll do a solicitation to do what? I mean, like, do you want a license? Do you want a lease? Do you want a license just because the CREST Theater obviously is not complete. It's not going to be complete for a while. So it's really just a license agreement for the classrooms.
Why don't we just put it out there to have people put in a bid for the best foot forward and see what comes out? I mean, to me,
just
that
keep
would
it
be
open.
I mean, I would
Absolutely.
see high level, someone with experience with running classes,
Of course.
right? At Delray Beach, can we say that, a Delray Beach organization? No, okay. So don't put that.
I don't know. I'll look at it. I don't know if we can.
And
With initials.
I mean,
Yeah,
I think it's kind of factual that there isn't a budget line item.
Right.
I think that's important to put in there.
Of course.
But that's it. I would keep it at no more
Very
detail than that,
open,
right?
so that
Yeah.
we can see what comes in.
Do you want it to be left open so that the commission can select 1, 2, or 3 if they wanted to? Different organizations, depending on what the
What
Sure,
if
yeah.
somebody comes in with
Yeah.
a great idea for the theater, and then others come in with a great idea of the
Keep some
the-
flexibility.
Absolutely, keep it open.
And just so we're clear, the proposals will come before the commission. You're essentially going to be the selection committee, or do you want staff to?
And
do
this
that?
is a
It
to
would have to be
negotiate,
the
right?
commission. That's right.
What is that term?
An invitation to negotiate.
Yeah, that's
I
what.
think that one was a little too open.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Okay.
need to be a bit more
Because
specific.
we remember we had like
That's not
no
gonna
idea
do
what to do with it. I
Right.
think we can tailor this one for almost like proposals.
Yeah.
Okay.
To bring them before
Because
the
it's
commission.
As long as it
specific to
just
that
can
facility.
be quick.
Yeah. So in terms of
Well, we're
time
not going
frame.
to be able to do anything until after January anyway, because it's not going to be open. But
I know.
between now and January, we should have something.
That's.
Oh.
I feel that's quick.
right? Or do
That's
you
fair.
think that's too quick?
That's lightning speed around
Oh,
here.
okay,
but
all
I'm
right,
just
well-
kidding. We can make it happen, but I'm just saying.
I think we'll
You know,
be fine.
To be realistic, we're not going to have any programming in there for this season, more than likely, because it takes time. It takes months for people to do the programming, for the most part, you know? So
Understood.
Yeah.
So,
But-
and I just want to make sure everyone's on board. You're going to be the selection committee. You don't want staff engaging in that process.
That would be my recommendation, wholeheartedly.
Okay.
Please.
We get it.
Got it, Terrence.
Anything
All right,
else?
Understood.
Yeah, I got one more quick thing. I had a meeting with Lynn and Missy this week about the Pompey Park solicitation. And out of that discussion, you know, we discussed the fact that this is a bigger capital improvement project we've done for a while. And I was hoping to get consensus from my colleagues to encourage whoever gets selected to host some local job fairs, to try and get some local folks on the, you know, to work for those contractors and subcontractors to end up being part of that.
We've done that in the past. They had that speed dating for
Yeah, I know.
for electricians or
Right.
roofers, whatever, for members of the Northwest and Southwest communities, and,
And the
it's actually really good.
Fairfield was one that did
Yeah.
a lot of local hires as well, so.
It's been done
I'm with
before.
that.
I'd
Good
love to see it
idea.
happen on this one if we
Yeah,
could.
that's
Yep.
cool. Great idea.
Good.
Yep, will do.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Anything else? That's it?
That's all I got.
All right,
Thank
very
you.
good. And I was going to bring up that TVNR program as well, but you all did that in the parade, just making sure that everybody gets the message. The mayor is not stopping the parade. This has to do with Coco Gauff's schedule and when she's here, and we will definitely honor her as soon as she allows us to. We're as excited as everybody else is in you know, doing a parade in her honor, because she's so deserving, and she is just so exciting to watch. I mean, when you're in and then you can dig yourself out, it's just amazing. She's just so dynamic. All right, that's it. Nothing more. Meeting adjourned.
Good night, ladies and gentlemen.